Chapter 191. As the richest family in China, any news about the Du family, even if the Du family's pet dog ate an extra meal a day, would become big news reported by many periodicals and magazines. And just yesterday, countless citizens witnessed the appearance of eldest young Master Du's silver-winged knight. Moreover, the suspected mysterious lover of eldest young Master Du from 8 years ago finally surfaced. On this day, the entire media in Yangjing was boiling. The small media without resources and background began to walk the streets and alleys to interview the onlookers that day. In the end, a lot of media surrounded the small inn that Su Wan's family lived in. The lady boss and her small inn really became popular. At the same time, countless big media surrounded the Du family's villa and the Du family's company, waiting to interview the main character. For these boring interviews, Du Chen, who came to the company in the morning, immediately sent his assistant to send away all the media. After doing this, Du Chen dialed the phone number of a private detective he was familiar with. "Young Master Du?" The voice of the person on the other end of the phone was very surprised. "Young Master Du, is there anything else you need my help with?" Who wouldn't like a nouveau riche client like Du Chen? In order to maintain such a client, anyone has to treat him carefully. "You gave me all the information about Su Wan's investigation?" Du Chen's tone was a little low. Because of Tian Tian's hint, Du Chen found someone to investigate Su Wan's family after discovering their suspicious points. At that time, he found this detective, who was already the best private detective in Yangjing. "I handed over everything I could find at that time to you, young Master Du. What's wrong? Did something go wrong?" The person on the other end of the phone also stopped laughing and his tone became very serious. "Young Master Du, we are very professional and will not casually use false information to deceive customers." "I know." Du Chen's fingers tapped on the desk, feeling a burst of irritation in his heart. "Help me investigate again. The fee is the same." "No, the fee is double." "Help me check the relationship between Su Wan and my eldest brother." "Eldest young Master Du?" The detective on the other end of the phone hesitated for a moment. Oh my, this little one wouldn't inadvertently get involved in the internal struggle of a nouveau riche family, right? Money or life, this is really a question. Hearing the sound of the electric arc sucking in a cold breath, Du Chen couldn't help but raise his voice. 3 times, "If you don't take it, I'll find someone else." "I'll take it. I'll take it." Damn it, he could retire immediately after finishing this job. Only an idiot wouldn't accept it. After hanging up the phone, Du Chen leaned back in his boss's chair with a complicated look in his eyes. Booze. At this time, his assistant, Yu Feng, quickly walked in with a hesitant expression. "What's wrong? Those reporters aren't leaving?" Du Chen raised his eyes and glanced coldly at Yu Feng. Yu Feng had been by his side for 3 to 4 years. Could it be that he couldn't even handle such a small matter? "No, no." Hearing Du Chen's words, Yu Feng shook his head nervously. "Boss, the reporters downstairs, they all ran away." Yes, before Yu Feng and the company's public relations team could deal with them, the reporters all left like crazy. There was only one possibility for such a situation to occur. They had to hurry to another scene that was even more exciting and selling. Hearing Yu Feng's words, Du Chen was also surprised. "Is there anything else in Yangjing that is more selling than our Du family?" Yes, there was no family more eye-catching than the Du family. Therefore, bang! At this time, the door of Du Chen's office was suddenly pushed open and a group of shareholders rushed in anxiously. "Second young master. What the hell does eldest young master want to do? Big brother?" Du Chen looked at the person who suddenly came in blankly. "What happened to my big brother?" "Yu Feng, what the hell happened?" "Boss, you'd better see for yourself." As Yu Feng spoke, he pressed the button on the 3D projection screen at the corner of Du Chen's desk. A high-definition 3D image projection immediately appeared on one of the walls of the office. This was Yangjing's largest CN station, which was broadcasting a high-definition interview with Du Han and eldest young Master Du live. From the huge projection, one could clearly see the luxury and beauty of the Du family's villa, which made countless citizens couldn't help but stop and watch. At this moment, the interview in the villa was being watched by everyone. A reporter. "Mr. Du, is what Ms. Li said just now true?" Did you have a crush on Miss Su when she was still in high school 10 years ago? Su Rui, Li Mai Huan. Of course what I said is true. Our family's Xiao Wan was the school flower at that time and many boys liked her. A reporter, Mr. Du? Su Rui. Yes, I like school flower Su. If the plot in a certain world also counts, well, so what if he admitted it? Hearing Su Rui's answer, the female reporter was also stunned for a moment. The camera's lens directly zoomed in and hit Su Wan's face. At this time, Su Wan was pulling Su Xiaosu and whispering to her. Feeling the camera suddenly zooming in, she couldn't help but raise her eyes, pull Su Xiaosu's hand, and greet the audience in front of the camera with a smile. It has to be said that the predecessor in each world was very good-looking, and in this world, the original owner's appearance was pure and gentle. Now that she has changed her soul, the whole person has Su Wan's original cold elegance. Now that she has such a brilliant smile, she instantly captured the hearts of the male audience. In the office, Du Chen was also in a trance when he saw Su Wan's smile. Thinking back to when he was in college, he just caught a glimpse of her clean and pure smile and fell in love with her at first sight. In retrospect, the past seemed to be still vivid in his mind. After all, it was once true love. How could it be so easy to forget it completely? But is what Big Brother said true? Did he really know Su Wan before him? At this time, the TV interview continued. A reporter. Mr. Du, are you admitting that you and Miss Su are a couple? Then why didn't you choose to marry her 8 years ago? And according to the information we have, 7 years ago, Mr. Du Chen, who is your younger brother, once pursued Miss Su and even got together with her. What do you think of this matter? Here comes the explosive point. Here comes the explosive point. At this moment, looking at the skyrocketing ratings, the director was happy, but a reporter in the villa was trembling and his face was pale under Su Rui's knife-like cold eyes. Woo woo woo, Mr. Du Han's eyes look so scary. Director, I want to go home. The air in the villa seemed to be frozen, and the room was filled with oppressive silence. When everyone thought that Du Han would directly turn hostile and end the interview, eldest young Master Du, who has always been rigorous and calm in the eyes of the public, suddenly opened his mouth again. I have always liked Su Wan, but she didn't know. Later, my parents wanted me to find a woman to marry and have children. At that time, I thought of her, but she had just been admitted to college at that time. You should know that according to international conventions, you can't get married at that age, so I could only find someone to tamper with her physical examination when she was admitted. Later, I found a doctor to get her eggs and then did a test tube baby. A reporter. Eldest young Master Du, is it really good for you to say this with a serious face? You've already stolen someone's ovaries. Is an international convention marriage law that difficult for you to enforce? Chapter 192. Inside the skyscraper of the Du Financial Group. Du Chen sat on his swivel chair and saw his brother tell the truth of the matter with a serious face on the screen. Although he felt it was inconceivable, second young Master Du believed it. That's right, in Du Chen's eyes, isn't his family's Nissen an existence with a worrying EQ? Therefore, it was absolutely normal for a high school student who had a crush on a female student to not dare to confess because of his age, and not dare to propose because of international conventions. So, eldest brother knew Su Wan first. And Su Wan never knew eldest brother. But although he felt that the truth of the matter should be like this, Du Chen always felt that something was wrong. At this time, after being shocked by eldest young Master Du's repeated outspokenness, a reporter handed the microphone to Su Wan for the first time. Miss Su, according to an insider, just 2 months ago, you were still preparing to marry Mr. Du Chen. So, what made you break up with Mr. Du Chen and choose to be with Mr. Du Han? Facing Su Wan, who obviously lacked fighting power, a reporter immediately raised his head and stuck out his chest, his words sharp. There are some things I don't want to reveal in front of the public. Su Wan faced the camera and microphone, gently tilted her head and raised her hand to stroke the loose hair on her forehead. It is said that this posture is the most photogenic. Su Wan is dirty. Reporter, Miss Su, you don't want to say? Don't want to say? Or don't dare to say? The female reporter saw that Su Wn intended to avoid it and naturally pressed her step by step. A reporter who doesn't seize the opportunity to interrogate the interviewer is not a good reporter. Hearing the female reporter's unrelenting question, Su Wn smiled, her gaze swept across the female reporter's body, and then she spoke again. Don't wash your dirty linen in public. You guys are forcing me like this. If I don't say it all the time, will people think that I have a guilty conscience? Kai Yujia, reporter Kai, have you ever been wronged? Have you ever experienced the feeling of being unable to speak? Kai Yujia's face changed slightly when she heard Su Wan's question. That's right, Su Wn looked at her a few more times just to see the reporter's work card. Kai Yujia, oh no, I seem to have accidentally offended the Du family's eldest young mistress. Will I be banned? I'm so scared, director, I want to go home. Tilda. When the reporter's heart was full of tears, Su Wn had already raised her hand and called over a robot housekeeper in the Du family's villa. Everyone knows that Du Han has high achievements in the field of high-intelligence robots. All the servant robots in the Du family were personally designed by him. These robots actually don't only do housework. In the case of personal privacy, they will turn on the monitoring function all day long. Once there are abnormal situations and unfamiliar people in the villa, they will sound the alarm. Hearing Su Wan's words, it didn't matter if it was the people in the villa, everyone watching the live broadcast was stunned. The most surprised person was none other than Du Chen. He actually knew nothing about this. At this moment, Du Chen's hands were trembling slightly. Why does the robot at home have such a function? Why didn't Big Brother tell him? Why did Su Wan mention this matter at this time? Could it be? Du Chen's mind suddenly thought of the sentence Su Wan had just asked, have you ever been wronged? Have you ever experienced the feeling of being speechless? Sure enough, next, Su Wan entered a certain command and a screen immediately popped up on the robot's chest. On the screen was a scene that happened in this hall more than 2 months ago. At that time, Su Wan was holding a box of patches in front of little Ling Li with a fawning expression and asked him softly, Little Tian Tian, where's your mother? Have you always lived with your mother? Why are you asking this? Is little Tian Tian something you can call? You vixen. A little mistress who specializes in destroying other people's families. Do you think you're worthy of calling me by my name? Hearing the little boy's words, Su Wan's face suddenly turned pale. Who taught you this? Is it your mother? Who is she? What does she want? I'm not a mistress, Du Chen and I truly love each other. Every mistress says that they are their true love. Hearing Su Wan's words, the little Shota rolled his eyes in disdain and then his immature face was filled with an ice-cold expression. If you're sensible, then hurry up and leave. Don't always covet things that don't belong to you. Otherwise, if something happens to your greedy parents, then it'll be too late for you to regret it. At that time, little Tian Tian did threaten Su Wan like this. He wanted to scare Su Wan away, but seeing that Su Wan had been enduring and not leaving, he naturally made a move against Su Jianjun and his wife. At this time, Su Wan on the screen showed an incredulous expression. You're still a child, how can you talk like that? You. Before Su Wan finished speaking, little Tian Tian's face suddenly changed on the sofa and he raised his hand and poured the box of patches in Su Wan's hand on himself. Woo-woo, Aunt Su, I just want to eat pudding. It's fine if you don't give it to little Tian Tian, but why did you pour it on me? Also, little Tian Tian is not a child without a mother to teach him. Little Tian Tian has a mother and a father. Su Wan. What's going on? While Su Wan was dumbfounded, a slender figure rushed in with a cold expression. Su Wan, what did you do to him? Dad. Seeing Du Chen's figure, little Tian Tian immediately looked aggrieved and burrowed into his arms with tears and snot. Little Tian Tian is not a child without a mother to teach him. Why did Aunt say that to me? Little Tian Tian is so sad. Little Tian Tian originally liked Aunt Su very much, but I don't want to like her anymore. A Chen, it's not like this. Su Wan saw that little Tian Tian was distorting the truth and immediately raised her hand nervously, wanting to pull Du Chen's sleeve to explain. Little Tian Tian, who was leaning in Du Chen's arms, felt Su Wan's approach and immediately trembled and leaned into Du Chen's arms with a pale face. Seeing that she scared his precious son, Du Chen's face darkened. Get lost, don't touch me. Du Chen, you don't believe me? He's lying, he's lying. Hearing Du Chen's cold words, Su Wan was stunned in place. At this time, she could only defend herself again and again, but, he's only 5 years old. Su Wan, you wronged a child like this, do you think I will believe you? That's right, who would believe that a 5-year-old child would be so scheming? No one would believe it if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes and experienced it for themselves. When the entire video was played, everyone was dumbfounded. Everyone knew that second young master Du suddenly had a son some time ago, but he was married and had a wife, so it was normal for him to have a son. However, everyone had always thought that Du Chen was still single. After Ling Qiyu left, the media interviewed Du Chen and he only said that the two people broke up because their personalities were incompatible. This so-called breakup was naturally understood by everyone as divorce. After that, Du Chen did not specifically explain this matter. In his opinion, it was very easy for him to unilaterally dissolve the marriage with Ling Qiyu, but at that time, he did not meet the right person, so this matter has been delayed. Reporter Kai, what do you think now? When everyone was silent, Su Wan suddenly spoke again. Hearing Su Wan's question, Kai Yujia subconsciously asked, is this true? As you can see, even if you saw it with your own eyes, you don't think it's true, let alone those who haven't seen it with their own eyes. Speaking of this, Su Wan suddenly faced the camera and showed a wry smile. I used to love Du Chen so much that I wanted to die for him, so after my parents took the Du family's money and took me away, I committed suicide, but I didn't succeed. This was the story of the original owner. Su Wan wanted to clear the name of the original owner in front of everyone at this time. She was not a greedy and vain mistress, nor was she a scheming and sinister woman who deliberately destroyed other people's feelings. She just loved her lowliness and her cowardice. After moving, I became very introverted, very timid, and didn't like to interact with others. I was afraid that the Du family would find us, but I also looked forward to Du Chen coming to find me. But what was Du Chen doing at that time? He married Ling Qiyu. My parents have been hiding this from me, and I didn't know about it until a few days ago. How sad. How ridiculous. Du Chen always said that I lied to him, said that I said one thing to his face and another behind his back, said that I am a malicious woman. Then what about him? Did he really love me? If he really loved me, why didn't he come to me? Why? In the end, he couldn't get rid of the identity of the Du family's second young master. He only knew how to get drunk and use the method of marrying another woman to compete with his parents, and the result was that he harmed the lives of 2 women at the same time. I was driven away by him and abandoned by him. I once thought that I would never be happy in this life, but at this time, Duhan came back. Speaking of this name, Su Wan subconsciously glanced at Su Rui, her eyes full of bright happiness. He taught me how to love. I am very lucky to have met him in this life. Even if I am misunderstood by the whole world, he will always stand behind me and accompany me until I grow old, until I disappear from this world. The final confession was what Su Wan wanted to say to Su Rui the most. Chapter 193. As night fell, the entire Yangjing city was still shining with neon lights. Du Chen sat on the sofa on the top floor of a 68-story skyscraper. When he looked up, he could see the stars in the sky from the transparent roof. Du Chen, will you always love me? That day was also the first time he held his beloved's little hand under the starry sky. The pure girl blinked her bright and clear eyes and looked at him uneasily. Her tone was filled with fear and uneasiness from the depths of her heart. They came from completely different classes and she had always felt inferior about this love. Su Wan, I love you, I will love you all my life, my heart will never change. Never change, heart. Never change. Du Chen couldn't help but murmur. It's said that young people don't talk about love. Back then, what was it that moved your heart that you couldn't forget? Or was it that innocent and brilliant smile under the sky full of stars? He had already almost forgotten about it and he clearly felt that he wouldn't love her anymore, but why did he suddenly feel so much pain in his heart? Young Master Du, I'm sorry, it's our dereliction of duty. Su Wan did once commit suicide. It was on the train that their family left Yangjing. Because the location of the incident was special and the time was relatively far away, we didn't find it the first time. The private detective's guilty voice rang in his ears again. Du Chen rubbed his forehead irritably with both hands. When he raised his eyes again, the starry sky had turned into the same face after moving. I became very introverted, very timid, and didn't like to interact with others. I was afraid that the Du family would find us, but I also looked forward to Du Chen coming to find me. But what was Du Chen doing at that time? He married Ling Qiue. Su Wan, Su Wan, it's still Su Wan. Now his mind was full of Su Wan. Du Chen felt that he was going to be driven crazy by her. No, he wants to go back, he wants to go back. Du Chen hurriedly got up, grabbed his coat and went straight out of his room. Booze. Yu Feng, who had been guarding the door, saw Du Chen's figure and immediately followed quickly. Boss, where are you going? Go home. Du Chen spat out 2 words coldly. Hearing his voice, Yu Feng couldn't help but step forward and block Du Chen's way. Boss, now all the media are guarding the company's entrance and the Du family's villa. Once you go out, I'm afraid. What am I afraid of? Du Chen's eyes became colder and colder. When his parents had an accident, didn't he support the Du family's dynasty? What was he afraid of? There was nothing in this world that Du Chen was afraid of. Du family villa. Because of the interviews broadcast from morning to night, the atmosphere in the Du family at this time was a bit weird. Well, to be exact, since Ling Qiue broke through the encirclement and brought her son back, the atmosphere in the whole hall was very weird. At this time, Ling Qiue was looking at her son with a serious face. Tian, what else do you want to say to your Aunt Su? Tian, Ling Li. Seeing that her son had been lowering his head and pouting his mouth and pretending to be pitiful without speaking, Ling Qiue's anger immediately rose. She saw the interview this morning when it was broadcast. She really didn't believe that her son would be such a child. At that time, Ling Qiue's first reaction was that Su Wan was faking it. She was putting on a show so that she could wash away her reputation and at the same time splash dirty water on herself and her son. But when Ling Qiue hurried to the kindergarten to confront her son, she saw her son with a group of gangsters and Ling Qiue also had an impression of those people. At that time, Su Wan's parents owed a lot of money and the debt collectors were from that gang. They ran amok in Yangjing and were very arrogant. There was no need for any unnecessary explanation. Ling Qiue knew that the most important thing she should do now was to take her child abroad and never come back again. However, she was a mother and little Tian was brought up by her own hard work. She didn't want to see her son go astray from an early age. So, she took her child back to the Du family. She wanted to finish everything, then divorce Du Chen and leave this place forever. What's the point of pretending to be mute? Seeing that Ling Li had been silent, Su Xiaosu's eyes flashed and she suddenly rushed in front of Ling Li. She raised her hands and pinched both sides of his face fiercely. Hey, elder sister, I knew that you were planning something with your head down. Why are you pretending to be pitiful? Aunt, look, little brother Tian doesn't have a single tear. He doesn't realize his mistake at all. You have to spank him hard. Go away. Being exposed by Su Xiaosu on the spot, Ling Li couldn't help but glare at her fiercely. A pair of white and chubby little hands struggled to pull Su Xiaosu's hand away. But who is Su Xiaosu? A robot. So, Ling Li little friend ended up in a tragic situation. The two of them fought back and forth and finally both fell to the ground and rolled around happily on the expensive and unparalleled carpet. Let go. I won't let go. Let go, or I'll bite you. Bite me, I don't know pain anyway. Seeing the two children rolling around in the hall in a mess, Ling Qiue became even angrier. She was about to get up and pull her unlucky child up, but Su Wan raised her hand and stopped her. Qiue, don't worry about them. Tian, he is still a child. I won't really be angry with him. Today. I have to apologize to him for doing these things. No matter how talented or black-bellied a child will always be forgiven. And I know his mood. Su Wan raised her eyes and looked at Ling Qiue in front of her seriously. He has followed you since he was a child. This child is much smarter than the average child. I think. He actually cares a lot and wants a father in his heart, so. He misunderstood me and wanted to drive me away because he felt that I would take away his father. Any child will resist when their most beloved toy is taken away, not to mention. That is his father. Su Wan. Ling Qiue lowered her eyes and looked at Su Wan seriously. It was undeniable that because her son spoke ill of Su Wan every day, Ling Qiue's original impression of Su Wan was not very good, but now, she had begun to change her view of her. Seeing the female lead looking at her apologetically, Su Wan couldn't help but smile at her. That's right, I'm here to break up you and that scumbag. Don't thank me, please call me Lei Feng tilde. Seeing that the two mothers were about to become Hua Xia's best bestie, Su Xiaosu, who was tired from rolling on the ground, finally frowned and stood up. I'm not playing with you anymore, I'm running out of battery, I have to go to the charging point. Ling Li. What the hell is charging? And who's playing with you? If you have the ability, then stand still and come back. See if I don't. In short, one day I will be able to beat you. It has to be said that in Ling Li's evil and domineering life, as a winner in life, the only tragedy was that he could never beat Su Xiaosu. When he was a child, he really couldn't beat her. After growing up, he was reluctant to part with her. Chapter 194. In the end, the little friend Ling Li reluctantly apologized to Su Wan under his mother's stern gaze. After that, the little boy pulled his mother upstairs with a straight face. Su Xiaosu had already gone upstairs to charge. Only Su Rui and Su Wan were left downstairs. As for Su Jianjun and his wife, the couple could finally hold their heads up high today. After the live broadcast ended, their phones almost exploded with calls. The debt company also took the initiative to call and tell them that they did not need to pay the rest of the money. Even their relatives, who were completely unrelated to them, were now all coming to help. Who didn't have a little bit of vanity? He was doing well and wished he could let the whole world know. Su Rui was also very clear about Su Jianjun and his wife's careful thoughts. Su Rui waved his hand and directly assigned bodyguards to the two of them. He also made 2 cards for the driver. Now, the two of them might be spending money somewhere. The world was big, but consumption was the biggest. Su Rui didn't plan on doing anything to this vain couple. As long as they didn't cause trouble for him and Su Wan, with Du family's financial resources, supporting them for 10 lifetimes wouldn't be a problem. It must be said that Su Rui and Su Wan had also been CEOs and daughters before. But to be honest, only in this world did they truly understand what money is just a number meant. That's right, the Du family's wealth was set to rival a nation's. Wife, why don't we go upstairs and sleep? Seeing that everyone had left, Su Rui couldn't help but lean against his wife. I missed you. Miss my ass, we haven't been apart for a day, okay? Su Wan admired General Su's ability to lie through his teeth. General Su's expression didn't change. Actually, little Su Rui misses you. You pervert. Su Wan felt that General Su was becoming more and more shameless. I am a hooligan, and only you. While speaking, Su Rui had already pounced on Su Wan with a smile, pressing Su Wan under his body. The servant robot, who had been standing in the corner of the living room waiting for orders, saw the scene on the sofa, and its eyes flashed red. Ding. Scanning a scene not suitable for children. The video recording function was turned off. The computer is in automatic hibernation. Therefore, high technology and whatnot were really awesome. Just as Su Rui and Su Wan were laughing on the sofa, the door of the villa was suddenly pushed open and Du Chen, who was in a sorry state, quickly entered the door. With a bang, the door of the villa was slammed shut by him. Ah! The irritation on Du Chen's face hasn't faded yet. The moment he raised his eyes, he happened to meet the eyes of the two people on the sofa. What are you doing? The scene in front of him made Du Chen's face immediately turn cold. Su Wan blinked her eyes, looked at the black lines on General Su's face, and then looked at the inexplicably cold face of Du Chen. Second brother, you're back? What can we do? I was just about to go back to my room to sleep. Saying this, Su Wn turned sideways and hugged Su Rui's neck. "Hubby, hug me. Let's go back and sleep. Be good." Hearing his wife's words, General Su's expression finally looked better. He carried his wife and ignored Du Chen, who was at the door. Su Rui turned and strode upstairs. Du Chen, second young Master Du, who had spent a lot of effort to get rid of the media outside the door, felt very sad at this moment. He was so gorgeously ignored by his elder brother. Of course, this was not the main point. The main point was that the moment he entered the door, he saw Du Han's whole body pressing on Su Wan's body. Du Chen's heart actually felt very uncomfortable. And Su Wan's second brother was simply a blow to his heart, emptying Du Chen's HP bar immediately. Isn't that right? Why did he come back so anxiously? Didn't he just want to make it clear to her? At this time, Du Chen's heart was extremely tangled. He suddenly didn't know what he wanted. Sitting on the sofa somewhat dejectedly, Du Chen lowered his head and put his hands in his hair, looking particularly lonely and frustrated. Ling Qiue, who had just coaxed Ling Li to sleep, came out of the bedroom and saw the lonely man on the sofa. She couldn't help but stop. Do I still love him? After being humiliated by him, Ling Qiue ran away in anger. At that time, she was still pregnant with Ling Li. When life was difficult, it wasn't that she didn't think of coming back to find him, even. Just like what Su Wan said in the interview. Every woman is emotional, love of fantasy. At that time, Ling Qiue also fantasized that one day Du Chen would suddenly appear in front of her and then say to her with a gentle face, "Wife, I'm here to take you home." But, in fact, it was really just a fantasy. How unrealistic. The story of Su Wan and Du Han made Ling Qiue truly aware of her naivety. True affection should be like how Du Han treats Su Wan. No matter how many years have passed, when you are at your lowest, I will appear in front of you, smile affectionately and say to you, "Come home with me. With me here, you don't have to be afraid of anything. That is love." Ling Qiue sighed in the bottom of her heart and was about to turn around and leave, but she saw Du Chen downstairs suddenly raise his head and his eyes met hers. Ling Qiue froze for a while before speaking in a low voice, "You're back." Seeing Ling Qiue's gentle and indifferent face, Du Chen suddenly remembered the words Tian Tian said in the video. "Vixen, mistress, why is a 5-year-old child's brain full of those things? Ling Qiue, how have you been teaching my son all these years? Did you teach him to say those insulting words to Su Wan? You think it was me?" Sure enough, he has never changed, always so self-righteous. If it wasn't you, who else could it be? Hearing Ling Qiue's rhetorical question, Du Chen coldly curled his lips. "Did you really come back to divorce me this time? Why didn't you send the divorce agreement directly to my company and instead let Tian Tian come back alone to acknowledge her?" Ling Qiue, what are you thinking? If the video Su Wan played was true, then why would a child do such a thing? There must be someone teaching him behind the scenes, and besides Du Chen, there was only Ling Qiue by Tian Tian's side. "Du Chen, you are always so conceited. I have nothing to say to you. I have already signed the divorce agreement. I hope to see your signature tomorrow morning, that's all." Ling Qiue turned around coldly. This time, there was no trace of attachment. Her heart that was moved by her son died again at this moment. Seeing Ling Qiue leave, Du Chen bent down and swept the things on the coffee table. "Divorce? Yes, but Tian Tian is his son and must be with him in the future." The next day, the media surrounding the Du family's villa increased unabated. Tian Tian also became famous because of the video and could no longer go to kindergarten. Ling Qiue had almost handed over all her work in the country. She was waiting for Du Chen to sign the divorce agreement and she would immediately leave with the child. As usual, Su Rui and Su Wan did not go downstairs to eat breakfast, but Su Xiaosu, who was fully charged and full of energy, sat at the long table in the dining room and ate with relish. Not ladylike at all. Seeing Su Xiaosu's table manners, little Tian Tian couldn't help but mock her. "Eating won't shut your mouth. Why are you looking at me? Haven't you seen a beautiful woman before?" Su Xiaosu retorted without hesitation. Chimph, you want to fight with your sister? Little brother, you are still far from it. Do you, Ling Li? All of you, shut up and eat your food. Hearing the voices of the two people, Du Chen, who had been eating silently with a cold face, couldn't help but shout coldly. My name is Su Xiaosu, not Du Yu. Su Xiaosu couldn't help but correct him. Who the hell is Du Yu? Can she be more adorable than this Miss Su? Su Xiaosu? Du Chen's eyes narrowed. He hadn't paid much attention to this robot. He didn't expect his brother to change her name, and it was even surnamed Su. Chapter 195. Because of Du Chen's existence, the breakfast table was a lot colder. When the two children finished eating, Ling Qiue handed the divorce agreement to Du Chen. Sign it. Her only request was for them to part on good terms. Sign. The corners of Du Chen's mouth rose and a smile flashed in his long and narrow eyes. Name a price first. What? Ling Qiue was taken aback and didn't understand Du Chen's meaning. I have hands and feet and can support myself. I don't need your alimony. Alimony? Du Chen was slightly startled, then raised his eyebrows disdainfully. I'll let you name a price. Ling Li will be raised by me in the future. What did you say? Hearing Du Chen's unreasonable request, Ling Qiue's whole body trembled with excitement. Du Chen, don't go too far. Ling Li is my son. I gave birth to him and raised him. You have never done the responsibilities of a father all these years. What right do you have to fight with me for custody? You can talk to the lawyer about this, but let me tell you, Ling Qiue, don't say that I have 100% evidence to support me in fighting for custody. Even if I don't have any chance, I can still win against you because I am Du Chen. The two words Du Chen were not just a name in China. He represented endless wealth and glory. Ling Qiue's body swayed and her face turned pale. Yes, what did she have to compete with Du Chen? But she only had little Tiantian as her only relative. This was her only relative and her most beloved son. She couldn't just watch him leave her. Even if there is only 1 in 10,000 chance, I will fight for it to the end. Du Chen, I really didn't expect you to be so heartless. Ling Qiue clenched the divorce agreement in her hand. If you want to see me in court, then let's see you in court. Mom, Dad. At this moment, Ling Li, who was supposed to be playing in the living room, suddenly appeared behind the two people. His immature little face carried an unprecedented blank emotion. You want to go to court? Going to court was a very distant thing for ordinary children. They didn't understand what the word court meant at all. But someone as smart as Ling Li naturally knew the meaning of their words. Be good, Tiantian. This is an adult's matter, don't worry about it. Ling Qiue couldn't help but soften her voice to comfort her son, while Ling Li just looked at her with wide eyes and then looked at Du Chen. Can't you two reconcile? Mom, haven't you already forgiven Dad? Is it because of Auntie Su? I'll apologize to her again. I'll apologize to her every day, okay? This has nothing to do with Su Wan. When Du Chen heard Ling Li mention Su Wan again, the emotions he had suppressed for a day and night finally erupted at this moment. It was a mistake for me to marry your mother back then. It was the Ling family who schemed against me and sent her to my bed. I was drunk that day and mistook her for Su Wan. Du Chen, enough. Ling Qiue interrupted Du Chen's words hoarsely, but unfortunately, she was still a step too late. Little Ling Li was stunned. A look of fear that he had never seen before flashed in his eyes. It turned out that Dad had never loved Mom. They did not break up because of the appearance of a mistress as she had imagined. Dad hated Mom, so he also hated himself, right? He turned out to be a child who was not expected. Some truths were so cruel. Over the years, Ling Qiue never mentioned Du Chen in front of Ling Li. Every time the child asked about his father, she would also use other things to brush him off. Little Ling Li's life experience was an eternal pain in Ling Qiue's heart. But now Du Chen had undone this layer of healing on the surface in front of the child, but the inside had long festered into a scab. I hate you. I hate you. This was the first time Ling Li shed tears since returning to the country. The little genius had always felt that he was already a man and could only bleed and not cry, but he wanted to cry so much, his tears were so salty. His small body was filled with endless sadness at this moment, and Ling Li stumbled out. Tian. Ling Qiue wanted to chase after him but was suddenly stopped by Du Chen. Don't go, nothing will happen to him in the yard. Du Chen knew that he had made a slip of the tongue, so his voice was a lot gentler at the moment. I shouldn't have said this in front of the child, but these are the facts. Tian is so smart, he will know one day. You also know that that will be a long time in the future. At that time, maybe he will have grown up and understand that emotional matters can't be forced, but now he is only 5 years old. Du Chen, how can you be so cruel? Ling Qiue felt her heart hurt. This man, how can this man be so cold-blooded? In the garden of the Du family. Ling Li sat alone in the middle of the flower bed, looking at the colorful flowers around him, his eyes darkened. All liars, all ruined, all should be ruined. He raised his small hands and frantically plucked the fresh flowers from the bushes. Then, he used his feet to step on them forcefully. Ouch, you black-hearted boy, how dare you trample on my father's flowers? Su Xiaosu, who followed behind Ling Li, looked at the little figure in the bushes that had fallen into a breakdown and couldn't help teasing. You. Hearing Su Xiaosu's words, Ling Li coldly raised his eyes and glared at her fiercely. And you, your father, your mother, you are all bad people. What's wrong with being bad people? We like to be bad people, it's better than your scumbag father. Su Xiaosu rolled her eyes and then strode to Ling Li. Little brat, if you know what's good for you, hurry up and get out here for elder sister, otherwise don't blame elder sister for being rude to you. I'm not going out, do you have the ability to bite me? Ling Li heard Su Xiaosu's arrogant words and couldn't help puffing out his chest. Then Su Xiaosu really pounced on him and bit Ling Li's shoulder fiercely. It was you who told me to bite you. Ian, I won't be polite and let's start. Ling Li. Why is it that this genius doesn't have a super high martial strength in so many settings? This doesn't make sense. On the 3rd floor of the villa, separated by a clean and transparent crystal window, Su Wan and Su Rui stood side by side. Looking out from the window, the 2 little ones in the garden looked particularly small. I remember that there are a lot of thorny roses planted in the garden. These 2 brats wouldn't be covered in wounds, right? Seeing the 2 people hugging each other and rolling around in the flowers again, Su Wan couldn't help but ask worriedly. It's nothing. Su Rui smiled and shook his head. Susu's settings have a medical function. Even if Ling Li is injured, she can help him with the most appropriate treatment. So, with Su Xiaosu in hand, there's no need to worry about outdoor travel. Hearing Su Rui's words, Su Wan nodded with relief. Yes, she almost forgot again that Su Xiaosu is just a robot with feelings. However, once a robot has human feelings, what's the difference between her and a human? She also has joy, anger, sorrow, and joy. There's love in her heart, and she can cry and laugh. Even Su Xiaosu, who can clearly use electricity as her body's energy source, is still a gluttonous foodie. Of course, those things won't be digested even if she eats them. They will only be treated as garbage and regularly discharged from her body. Such a robot looks particularly advanced, but in fact, it's extremely sad. If we leave, what will Su Xiaosu do? Su Wan suddenly couldn't help but ask. Su Xiaosu is the daughter created by Su Rui. The meaning of her existence is to be with her parents, but Su Wan and Su Rui will always leave this world. But what about Su Xiaosu? As long as her mainframe is not damaged, as long as there is still energy, she will continue to live. Then let's stay in this world a little longer and wait for her to grow up. Su Rui looked at the figures of Su Xiaosu and Ling Li in the flowers and whispered softly, when she grows up, she will also have someone she likes, right? Su Xiaosu can still grow up. Hearing Su Rui's words, Su Wan was completely stunned. Robots can still continue to grow? I don't read much, don't lie to me. This body naturally can't grow, but... Su Rui smiled mysteriously. I prepared an adult gift for her when she turns 18. That's a brand new body. Okay, Su Wan admired General Su's foresight and foresight. However, these 2 parents, have you ever thought about the feelings of others? Your daughter has always had the face of a 7-year-old Lolita, and then suddenly became an 18-year-old girl overnight. Who can accept this? In any case, a certain young man expressed his inability to accept it. Chapter 196. Ling Li was really injured. His tender skin was full of tiny wounds. Of course, the most serious one was the scar on his shoulder, which was bitten by Su Xiaosu. Do you want to know what it feels like to be bitten by a robot's sharp teeth? I advise you not to attempt it. Tian Tian. When Du Chen rushed to the garden, Su Xiaosu was pressing Ling Li's whole body to the ground and forcibly treating his wounds. Ouch, can you not move? The medicine will spill later. Seeing the little boy under her twisting around with a tsunder expression and not wanting to be treated by their enemy, Su Xiaosu couldn't help but be in a good mood. You don't want to be treated by me, but I will treat you. Tilda, get lost, don't touch my son. And at this time, Du Chen arrived. Du Chen had always been very annoyed with this robot at home, especially when he knew that this child turned out to be Su Wan and his brother's child. The disgust in his heart became even stronger. After all, Su Xiaosu was not a combat robot. The reason why she was able to bully Ling Li properly was because her body was a head taller than Ling Li, and now that she was pushed by Du Chen, who was a body taller than her, Su Xiaosu immediately fell as if she was weightless. Oh, I'm so scared. Dad, save me. Tilda, hey, why did you push her? Ling Li watched Du Chen push Su Xiaosu out and immediately couldn't help but question, but then he looked at Du Chen's back in shock. Su Xiaosu did not fall to the ground, but fell into a warm and comfortable embrace. Are you okay? Su Rui lowered his eyes and looked gently at the little person in his arms. Dad. Su Xiaosu pursed her lips, her big eyes full of grievance. Dad, that scumbag bullied me. Woo woo, Susu is so pitiful. Du Chen. Su Rui put down his daughter in his arms, his eyes cold, and called out in a low voice, apologized to Susu. Brother. Du Chen turned his head and looked at Su Rui behind him with an incredulous look. You're telling me to apologize to a low-level robot? Big brother, are you crazy? Du Chen hadn't finished speaking when Su Rui's body suddenly rushed in front of him. A slender and powerful hand grabbed Du Chen's throat. I told you to apologize. Du Han, calm down. Su Wan, who just ran out of the villa, saw Su Rui's movements and immediately became anxious. Just now, the two of them were still upstairs. In the end, when he saw Du Chen forcefully pushing Su Xiaosu away, Su Rui's breathing changed at that time. He opened the window and directly jumped down from upstairs. Su Wan understood Su Rui's temper too well. He wouldn't allow anyone to bully the people he set his eyes on, not even a single strand of hair could be touched. And now, as long as Su Rui exerted a little more force, Du Chen would probably die. Du Han, let go. Su Wan rushed over anxiously and looked at Du Chen, whose face was already blue and breathing was not smooth. Her face immediately changed and she used all her strength to lift her hand to pull away Su Rui's restraint. Then she patted Du Chen's back nervously. Du Chen, how are you? You scumbag, if you want to die, at least die far away. Don't drag my man down with you. Tilda, that's right. This was the true portrayal of Su Xiaosu's inner activities. But in Du Chen's eyes, all of this was like this. When Du Chen was about to be out of breath due to his big brother's choking, Su Wan's anxious figure immediately appeared in his gradually blurred vision. She was clearly so far away, but Du Chen strangely saw the fear and uneasiness that came from the bottom of her heart. Is she worried about me? At that moment, Du Chen's heart was particularly complicated. He tried hard to make a sound and kept trying to struggle his body, but the strength in his body was gradually fading away. He couldn't use any strength at all. Is Big Brother really going to kill me? Why does he hate me so much? Du Chen was a little absent-minded. He couldn't figure it out, and the next moment, he felt that he seemed to have glimpsed the truth of the matter. Du Han, let go. Su Wan actually quarreled with Big Brother for him? At that time, Big Brother's expression changed, but Su Wan still used all her strength to move his hands away and successfully rescued herself. Du Chen, how are you? At that moment, the anxiety in Su Wan's tone, the fear in her expression, and the warm and trembling hands she used to support him made Du Chen's heart palpitate. He just knew that she still loved him. She had always loved him. Student Du Chen, overthinking is a kind of disease, do you know that? Cough, cough. Breaking free from Su Rui's grip, Du Chen coughed a few times with a pale face. Seeing that he was still alive and kicking and not dead, Su Wan finally breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Fortunately, He wasn't dead. Xiao Wan. At this time, Du Chen, who had finally recovered some strength, raised his hand and wanted to grab Su Wan's slender jade hand next to him, but Su Rui, who was standing on the other side, had a cold gaze and pulled Su Wan to his side first. Wife, he won't die. Don't worry about him. You and Susu take Ling Li to the ward on the 4th floor for treatment. Du Chen, come with me to the study, I have something to say to you. As he spoke, Su Rui pushed Su Wan to Su Xiaosu's side and turned to walk towards the door of the villa alone. Have a talk. Du Chen stared at Su Rui's back, his gaze slightly cold. It was time for him to have a good talk with his big brother. Xiao Wan, I'm going. Turning his head and whispering a few words to Su Wan, Du Chen quickly followed Su Rui's footsteps. Su Wan, is the male lead sick? Su Wan complained and then beckoned Su Xiaosu to come in front of Ling Li. At this time, Ling Li had already stood up from the ground and his expression was particularly complicated. It couldn't be helped. The brain of a person with a high IQ is always running at high speed. Maybe they can circle the earth in a second. That is definitely an existence that we mortals can't imitate. Let's go upstairs. Do you want me to help you? Su Wan looked at Ling Li's expression and asked with a smile. I don't need your fake kindness. Ling Li glared at Su Wan coldly again. This brat Tilda, what are you talking about? Su Xiaosu couldn't stand it anymore and came up to Ling Li. Little brat, you haven't been bitten enough, have you? Ling Li, let me make a deal with you. Let's not bite people next time, okay? It really hurts Tilda obviously. Su Xiaosu's sharp tongue left a lot of shadow in little Ling Li's heart. So when he heard her words at this time, Ling Li frowned but did not counterattack as quickly as before. Go, I'll go. I don't need you to help me. Ling Li raised his head and strode past Su Xiaosu and Su Wan. Looking at his departing back, Su Xiaosu blinked proudly. Mom, am I very powerful? Yes, our family's Susu is the most powerful. Chapter 197. The medical room on the 4th floor of the Du family was equipped with specialized doctors, nurses and medical robots. After sending Ling Li to the doctor, Su Wan came out of the ward with Su Xiaosu. Ling Qiue was standing anxiously at the door. Just now, she had been making international calls and contacting her friends abroad. She wanted to find some evidence that was beneficial to her or an excellent lawyer. In case she really went to court with Du Chen in the future, she must be prepared first. She didn't expect that her son would be injured just by making a phone call. At this time, Ling Li's anger had not subsided. When he entered the door and saw his mother, he pretended not to see her, so Ling Qiue didn't dare to enter the ward directly and could only wait outside hesitantly. Xiao Wan, is Tian okay? Seeing Su Wan come out with Su Xiaosu, Ling Qiue immediately asked nervously. It's okay, it's all superficial wounds. It's not a big deal, don't worry. Su Wan comforted Ling Qiue, then narrowed her eyes and asked softly, does he know something? Ling Qiue's expression was a little gloomy. He knows about what happened between Du Chen and me back then. Now Du Chen is going to sue me for custody of Tian. Xiao Wan, I'm so scared. If Tian refuses to forgive me, will I lose him? I only have him now. Hearing Ling Qiue's words, Su Wan just raised her hand and patted her shoulder comfortingly. Don't worry, Du Han and I will help you. Really? Ling Qiue's eyes widened in surprise when she heard Su Wan's words. She looked at Su Wan gratefully. Really? You will really help me? Of course, we. Before Su Wan finished speaking, she heard the door of the study downstairs being kicked open, followed by the sound of porcelain shattering. General Su seemed to be having a heart-to-heart talk with the male lead in the study. Well, looking at this situation, it must have broken down. Su Wan quickly walked to the staircase and listened for a while. Du Chen's cold voice slowly came from the door of the study. Du Han, don't go too far. What have you done for the Du family all these years? I'm the only one supporting the entire Du Corporation. You only know how to research your smart robots, And now you're even bringing a robot home as your precious daughter. You're crazy. Now you are simply unreasonable. Today you want me, the dignified CEO of the Do Group, to apologize to a robot. Tomorrow you want me to give the entire Do Group to her? Do family. Su Rui, who was in the room, heard Du Chen's words. He, who had been sitting in his original position without moving, narrowed his eyes slightly. The Du clan is yours and mine. Du Chen, don't forget that you only have half of the inheritance rights of the Du clan. Hearing Su Rui's words, Du Chen's face darkened at the door. That's right, in his parents' will, they divided all their property equally to the two brothers. Because Du Han only wanted to do robot research in the past, he never managed the Du family and never used a penny from the Du family. After a long time, Du Chen almost forgot about this matter. Du Han, what do you mean? When the Du family was facing a crisis, you didn't care. Now that I've led the Du family on the right track, you want to talk to me about inheritance. What do you want? Half of the Du family? No, no, no. Hearing Du Chen's words, Su Rui just shook his head. I'm a man with a wife and children now and I need my own career. So, from tomorrow onwards, I'm going to work in the Du family. Don't worry, I don't want your CEO position either. Su Rui picked out a document from the desk that had been prepared a long time ago and threw it on the carpet in the study. Xinghong Electronics, this is a high-tech product branch of the Du family. I want you to make it independent and give me full authority to manage it. Xinghong Electronics. Du Chen glanced down at the document on the ground. The 4 words on it were printed very clearly. This was indeed the largest branch of the Du family and its annual profits were also very abundant. However, compared with the entire Du financial group, its profits only accounted for 10% of the Du family's industry. You only want Xinghong Electronics? Du Chen raised his eyes and looked at Su Rui again, asking somewhat uncertainly in reply. Oh, didn't you say that I only study robots? I want this company. Su Rui slowly stood up and stared at Du Chen's eyes with a pair of sharp eyes. How about it? This condition is not too much, is it? Good. Du Chen didn't hesitate and nodded vigorously. I will deal with this matter when I return to the company tomorrow. In the future, although Xinghong Electronics will still be working in the Du family's building, it will become a private industry under your name. In the future, any products produced by this company and the various profits generated by this product will have nothing to do with our Du family. Deal. With Xinghong Electronics in hand, General Su's face finally looked better. He was going to use this small Xinghong Electronics to nibble away at the entire Du family bit by bit. This was interesting, wasn't it? The two sides finally reached an agreement. Du Chen turned around with a cold face and walked from the door of the study to the stairs. As soon as he looked up, he saw Su Wn standing there. At this time, Du Chen noticed that Su Wn was wearing a long white dress today, just like the pure white color in his memory. Xiao Wan. Unconsciously, Du Chen quickened his pace and soon arrived in front of Su Wn. Xiao Wn, I. He felt that he had 1,000 words to say to her, but at this moment, looking at the person who was close at hand, Du Chen suddenly didn't know what to say. Su Wn looked at Du Chen rushing in front of her with a tangled look on his face. She couldn't help but frown. Male lead, what do you mean? I just finished negotiating with General Su and there's still no end to it. You still want to negotiate with me? Just as the two people were thinking about each other, a loud noise suddenly came from outside the villa downstairs. What's wrong? Du Chen came back to his senses and turned on his electronic communicator to contact the security guards outside the villa. Second young master, it's Master Su and Mrs. Su. They came with a group of friends and said they want to visit the Du residence. What? This Su Jianjun and Li Maihuan really can't stay idle. Visit the Du family? Only they could think of this. Hearing the report of the security guards, Du Chen's face immediately turned cold. He was about to order people to drive away those messy people when Su Wan's voice suddenly came from the communicator. Let them in and entertain them well. This is. Du Chen raised his eyes and met with Su Wan's smiling eyes. At this moment, He seemed to suddenly know the reason why Su Wn chose to be with Du Han. It must be because of Su Jianjun and Li Maihuan. Back then, they could disregard their daughter's lifelong happiness for the sake of money. Now, they can naturally force their daughter to marry someone she doesn't like for the sake of money. If it's really because of money. Du Chen was confident that what Du Han could give them, he could also do the same. Do as eldest young master instructed. Du Chen also immediately ordered, also, immediately instruct the kitchen to prepare meals and entertain the guests. Who doesn't know the root of father-in-law and mother-in-law? Chapter 198. That night, Du family's villa banquet hall. The spacious and luxurious banquet hall was filled with all kinds of delicious food. Several waiters and robots in uniform shuttled through the crowd. The bright crystal gem chandelier on the ceiling dazzled Su Jianjun's eyes. Big brother Su, I feel like I'm dreaming now. A middle-aged fat man sitting next to Su Jianjun raised his glass and looked at Su Jianjun, who was already reeking of alcohol. His chubby face was full of envy. Thanks to you, big brother Su, I have the opportunity to eat such delicious food and drink such expensive red wine in my life. TSK, I didn't expect this wine to be so strong. It's really flavorful. Hearing the middle-aged fat man's words, Su Jianjun waved his hand weakly. These are nothing. Let me tell you, my daughter, our family's Xiao Wan, is the Du family's eldest young mistress. Do you know? Do you all know? The Du family's money is her money. How much money does the Du family have? If I raise all of you, I won't be able to spend it all even after 10 lifetimes. Hehe. Speaking of this, Su Jianjun narrowed his eyes again, but his gaze had already found the other side, admiring the backs of the beauties in the crowd. It must be said that today's incident was caused by Su Jianjun alone. Yesterday, he and Li Maihuan took Su Rui's money, so naturally, they returned home with honor. The two people found their old neighbors and relatives and treated everyone to a big meal. As a result, Su Jianjun got drunk. After getting drunk, he began to habitually brag again, saying how good the Du family was and how powerful the couple's words were. At that time, someone asked impatiently, "Can you invite us to the Du family to have a look? Let us also see the legendary nouveau riche villa." Hearing someone so supportive, Su Jianjun naturally waved his hand. No problem. Isn't it just a tour of the Du family's villa? I'll take you there tomorrow. No one is allowed to leave. All go. Then. It became like this now. In fact, after Su Jianjun woke up today, he regretted his promise last night, but he had already promised and said big words. Now he could only be forced to do something beyond his capabilities. Fortunately, his son-in-law Du Han was really awesome. Not only did they really let these messy people in, but they also prepared a banquet for them. The wine and dishes at the banquet were all made according to the standards of the Du family's private banquets. Even a simple salad was several times more expensive than the ones in a 5-star hotel. In short, Su Jianjun now feels that he has more face and is more comfortable. In the latter half of the night, the noisy banquet hall gradually quietened down. By now, there were only a few guests who could stand by themselves. Most of the people were drunk. They were on the carpet, under the table, on the sofa, and even in the bathroom. Ever since they moved in, the Du family's villa had never been left in such a mess. In the hall, there were already robots responsible for cleaning the scene, while others were responsible for carrying these drunk guests to another small villa outside the main villa for guests to rest. From beginning to end, Du Chen stood upstairs and watched all this with cold eyes. He saw Li Meijuan's vanity and Su Jianjun's greed and lust. It was such a couple, but they were Su Wan's parents. At this moment, he suddenly felt distressed for Su Wn. If she didn't have such a pair of greedy parents, would they have been able to stay together all the time, never have to be separated, and wouldn't have to go through so many twists and turns? They would get married and have their own children. The boy would definitely be as smart as Qian, and the girl. Su Xiaosu's face flashed in Du Chen's mind. That face was too similar to Du Han's. Du Chen's eyes immediately turned cold. He is now powerless to change the past, but what about the future? What can he do? This night, Du Chen tossed and turned all night and couldn't sleep. The next day, Du Chen got up a little later than usual. When he went down to the dining room on the first floor, he saw Su Wan's family, Du Han, Su Xiaosu, as well as Ling Qiue and Tian Tian. Everyone was eating at the dining table and the atmosphere was harmonious. Morning. Du Chen walked to the dining table and gently greeted them, then habitually sat down in his seat. His appearance changed the atmosphere at the dining table slightly. I'm done eating. Little friend Ling Li was the first to leave the dining table, and Ling Qiue naturally left with him. Last night, Ling Li also thought a lot. He knew that he couldn't blame his mother. If his mother didn't love him, she wouldn't have worked so hard to insist on giving birth to him and even endured hardships to raise him. Well, in fact, they lived a good life abroad, so it can't be considered enduring hardships. But in any case, his mother must love him the most. Ling Li was very sure of this, so when he woke up from the hospital bed early this morning and saw Ling Qiue sleeping soundly by the bed, little friend Ling Li decided to forgive her. As for Du Chen, little friend Ling Li, who finally realized that his father was a scumbag man, felt very sad. He couldn't accept the setting of my father is a scumbag man for a while, so this was naturally his reaction when he saw Du Chen again. Seeing the mother and son leave, Du Chen's expression remained unchanged. He lowered his eyes and ate breakfast gracefully. After eating, Du Chen looked up at Su Rui, who was constantly fawning over Su Wan, and said softly, "Big brother, are you going to work with me today? Son-in-law, are you also going to work at the Du clan?" Hearing Du Chen's question, Li Maihuan was the first to speak. Although Du Han was also the young master of the Du family and had endless money, people's desires and greed were endless. Who in China didn't know of Du Chen's glory? They were both sons of the Du family, and Du Han was the eldest. If it weren't for the fact that Du Han's face was too serious and his aura was too strong, Li Maihuan would have long gone up to him and urged him to compete with Du Chen for the Du family's property. Hearing Li Maihuan's question, Su Rui just nodded lightly, then he looked up at Du Chen again. "If the company can be transferred today, I will go to the company with you to have a look." "Dad." Seeing that Su Rui was going to work, Su Xiaosu couldn't help but pull his arm intimately. "Dad, I also want to go to your company to play. Can you take me there?" "Okay." Su Rui responded with a smile on his face. Now that Su Xiaosu's matter and her identity were no longer a secret, Su Rui didn't have to take into account other people's opinions at all. When Du Chen left the villa with Su Rui and Su Xiaosu, Li Maihuan and Su Jianjun immediately leaned in front of Su Wan. "Daughter, you and Du Han are now considered famous. When are you going to get your marriage certificate?" "Get my marriage certificate?" Su Wan blinked. "It was done yesterday. In this world, you can take a 3D projection photo to get a marriage certificate. You don't have to go there in person, and with Du Han's identity, it doesn't need to be so troublesome." Hearing that their daughter and Du Han were legally married, the couple immediately nodded in satisfaction. "Xiao Wan, since you are now a member of the Du family, you should also have your own career. A man's heart can change at will. A woman can't rely on a man all her life, she has to rely on herself. You see, the Du family has a big business. I heard that they also have a chain of beauty salons. Mom thinks that this is pretty good. It's not worth much in Du Han's eyes. How about you take over that chain and run it yourself? What do you think? I'm not interested in beauty, and I don't have the time." Hearing Li Maijuan's words, Su Wan leaned lazily on the sofa. Guarding the Du family's diamond mine, she doesn't have to worry about food and clothing. Why does she have to go out and work by herself? Su Xiaosu felt that it would be good to be a rice worm in this world for a lifetime. Even if the Du family is gone in the future, she still has General Su. In short, she doesn't have to worry about anything. "You don't have time, but I do. I can help." Hearing Su Wan's answer, Li Maihuan couldn't help but point to herself. "Xiao Wan, Mom is here, you can rest assured." "Rest assured? It's because you guys are here that I'm really worried. After saying so much, it's actually you who wants a beauty salon, right? Du Han didn't give you enough money to open one for yourself. If you don't know how to open one, you can buy one at a high price." Su Wan couldn't help but sit up straight and look at Li Maihuan and Su Jianjun in front of her. I'll tell you one last time, if you lack money, you can ask Du Han and me for it. In your next life, just eat, drink, and play. Don't have any ideas about the Du family, and don't have any extra crooked thoughts, otherwise, even your own daughter can't save you. Chapter 199. The Du Clan. The handover of Xinhong Electronics went very smoothly. Early in the morning, all the senior employees of the Du clan received the news that the eldest young master had made Xinhong Electronics independent and run it himself. The employees of the other departments were still busy with their own things. These changes had no effect on them, but the old employees of Xinhong Electronics were all worried. A new emperor brings his own ministers. Now many people are privately talking about the eldest young master and the second young master falling out because of love. Now that the eldest young master has independent Xinhong Electronics, the situation of these old employees is very bad. Everyone in China knows that the eldest young master Du has his own laboratory, which specializes in robots. There are a group of very professional high-tech talents in that laboratory, and any one of them is several times better than the ordinary employees of Xinhong Electronics. Just when the Xinhong Electronics on the 28th floor was in a gloomy fog, Du Chen, who was sitting in the office on the top floor, was looking through the information about Su Jianjun and Li Maihuan that Yu Feng had sorted out for him. This Su Jianjun really has a lot of bad habits. Du Chen closed the information and gently rubbed his eyebrows. Su Jianjun is greedy, lustful, and timid. Although such a person is the best to rope in fact, he is not very useful at all. If there is any sign of trouble, he will immediately turn the spearhead and become a traitor. In contrast, Li Maihuan is an existence worth roping in. A vain, scheming, and greedy woman, as long as you give her a little sweetness and let her gradually inflate her ego, she will be completely lost in the world of money and power. Li Maihuan is interested in the beauty industry under the Du clan. Du Chen raised his hand and gently tapped on the information, asking in a low voice. Yes, boss. According to our investigation, she has said more than once in front of her good sisters and relatives and friends that her son-in-law will hand over the Eve chain to her in the future. Yu Feng stood aside and answered Du Chen's question with a serious face. Okay, help me draw up a contract. From today onwards, Li Maihuan will be the CEO of the Eve chain. Du Chen smiled slightly, and his words had already decided Li Maihuan's future. Booze. Although Ms. Li is Miss Su's mother, she doesn't know anything about the beauty industry, and our Eve is to serve the entire upper class. Isn't it a bit inappropriate to do this? For the first time, Yu Feng had an objection to Du Chen's decision. Hearing his words, Du Chen just smiled coldly. I know she doesn't know anything. Ignorant people are the best to control, and when it comes to Eve, she has to deal with those noble ladies all day long. As vain as Li Maihuan, what will she do? How exciting. Catching a glimpse of the sneer that flashed across Du Chen's face, Yu Feng immediately lowered his eyes and stood aside. I know what to do. How many people in this world could resist a beautiful trap paved with money? Since Su Rui began to take over Xinhong Electronics, his life has suddenly become busy again, and because he did not lay off employees, but also greatly improved the welfare of all old employees, which made the big stone in the hearts of Xinhong Electronics fall to the ground. Compared to before in the Du family, everyone seems to be more motivated now. Su Xiaosu still liked to circle around Su Rui. She loved the laboratory full of precision instruments because she was born in Su Rui's laboratory. Every day when she returned home from the company, Su Xiaosu would take the initiative to tell Su Wan about the fun things in the company. Because her voice was too loud, it made little friend Ling Li frown, but Ling Li sat on the side sullenly. Isn't it just going to Dad's company to play? What's there to show off? This genius is not going, childish. Tian Tian. At this time, Su Rui, who had changed into a black homesuit, appeared in front of Ling Li uncle. Ling Li still respected his uncle very much. It couldn't be helped. Since the last time he saw in the garden that his uncle could fly from several stories high to the garden to pick up Su Xiaosu, at that moment, Ling Li knew that his uncle was by no means an ordinary person. Tian Tian, Our company's computers are going to upgrade their security system recently. Would you like to go to the company with me tomorrow to take a look? Ah. What? Ling Li blinked and looked at Su Rui blankly. Uncle, what is a security system? Seeing this black-bellied little brat playing dumb with him, Su Rui raised his eyelids. A security system is a program in a computer that can prevent it from being attacked by external data. Although our company's technology is already very advanced, correspondingly, the current hacker technology is also very powerful. For example, the super hacker codenamed 77. Have you heard of him, Tian Tian? Ling Li. What the hell is 77? The signature this genius left was clearly L times L, which is the abbreviation of Ling Li, okay? Which person with bad eyesight could see it as 2 sevens and finally named it 77? Tian Tian. Su Rui called again and Ling Li finally reacted. Uncle, Sister Susu said that your company is very fun, then I'll go play with her tomorrow. Good boy. Seeing that the little brat was so sensible, Su Rui smiled in satisfaction, straightened up and waved at his wife. Wife, go upstairs and rest. I'm sleepy. Oh. Su Wn kissed Su Xiaosu and then went upstairs with Su Rui. When both of them left, only Su Xiaosu and Ling Li were left downstairs. The two children looked at each other and turned their heads with great disdain. Upstairs in the bedroom, Su Rui pulled Su Wan into the room. The two of them first made out for a while, then took some hot water to take a bath. When Su Wan came out of the bath, she saw Su Rui sitting on a soft chair next to the bed in his pajamas, reading some information. What are you looking at? Su Wan walked around from behind and a pair of jade arms gently wrapped around Su Rui's neck. Her black hair still carried a hint of fragrance and moisture, all scattered on Su Rui's shoulders. This is some information about the Du clan. As Su Rui spoke, he raised a hand and hooked the ends of Su Wan's hair with his fingers, twirling them around his fingertips. Wife, have you seen Li Mai Huan and Su Jianjun these past few days? Them? I haven't seen them all day. Did they get into trouble outside? Hearing Su Rui's question, Su Wan knew that something must have happened. It's not a big deal. Su Rui's tone was a little careless. Du Chen gave the position of CEO of the Du clan's beauty chain brand to Li Mai Huan. What? Hearing Su Rui's words, Su Wan's eyes widened in surprise. Did water enter Du Chen's head? What was his purpose in doing this? To curry favor with Li Mai Huan? To frame Li Mai Huan? None of this seemed to have the slightest benefit for him. Hearing Su Wan's question, Su Rui suddenly didn't know how to answer. He felt that it was mainly because he was too outstanding. And because his wife had been by his side for too long, she naturally and automatically shielded herself from those wild bees and butterflies in the outside world. So, Su Xiaosu, in fact, Du Chen still has feelings for you. You don't know, right? You definitely didn't see it, right? Yes, this is the effect I want. Chapter 200. Du Skyscraper, CEO Exclusive Elevator. This was Ling Li's first time coming to the Du clan. Du Chen wanted to get close to his son with a smile on his face along the way, but Ling Li's face was cold the entire time, looking like an iceberg shoter, making Du Chen's thoughts all go to waste. Seeing Ling Li putting on a cold face at Du Chen, Su Xiaosu stood on the other side and kept blinking at Ling Li, making Ling Li have no choice but to lower his head and not look at her. Otherwise, he felt that he would definitely roll his eyes. Su Xiaosu, that's enough. On the 28th floor, the elevator door opened and Su Xiaosu was the first to rush out. Susu is here. Susu, this is the breakfast Auntie bought for you this morning. Susu, this is the milk that sister just made for you. Susu. You're not mistaken. In the entire Xinghong Electronics, the most popular person is not their boss, General Su, but this delicate and cute robot Su Xiaosu who can play dumb and act cute. Su Rui had long been accustomed to such a scene, but when Ling Li, who followed closely behind them, saw Su Xiaosu being surrounded by a group of people eating and drinking with a silly smile on her face, he finally couldn't hold it in and rolled his eyes fiercely. He remembered that it was the first time he fought with Su Xiaosu. After losing, Ling Li got up in the middle of the night and went to the kitchen to find water to drink. As a result, he saw Su Xiaosu's head still lit up in the middle of the night, giggling and stealing food in the kitchen. That scene really made Ling Li feel drunk just thinking about it now. Is it really good for a robot to be so greedy? Aren't you afraid of short-circuiting? Su Xiaosu answered Ling Li's question like this: my motherboard is waterproof and fireproof. Not only can I eat and drink, but I can also cry. Look, this is a pear blossom in tears. Hey, this is called tears streaming down my face, and this is called tears falling like rain. Pouring water out from both eyes, your sister's tears falling like rain. Are you trying to make a flood? It was this so-called 81 ways to cry that made little friend Ling Li want to laugh whenever he saw a girl cry when he grew up. Over time, everyone who knew him knew that he was inhumane and unsympathetic. In short, because of Su Xiaosu's existence in Ling Li's childhood, the shadow of his childhood was so big that it couldn't be asked for, okay? Come to my office. Su Rui didn't call Ling Li over to watch Su Xiaosu. Since Xinhong Electronics was independent by him, many consortia outside have been eyeing Xinhong Electronics' new products, and some illegal groups have hired a large number of computer hackers to invade Xinhong Electronics' main system and steal their research data. In terms of artificial intelligence programs, Su Rui was an expert among experts, but he wasn't very good at system security protection. Fortunately, he knew that Ling Li was a genius hacker. With his cheat halo, he could definitely ensure that Xinhong Electronics' main system was foolproof. Oh. Hearing Su Rui's call, Ling Li turned around and followed him into the office. After that, Su Rui instructed his assistant not to let anyone disturb them. In the blink of an eye, an entire morning passed. By the time Ling Li used his pair of short hands to help Su Rui encrypt the security system of the entire main system, he was already so hungry that he was powerless. No matter how much of a genius he was, he still had to feed others, right? Thank you for your hard work. Su Rui looked at the exhausted little Shota, his tone indifferent. In fact, he had never treated Ling Li as a child. I owe you a favor for today's matter. In the future, if you and your mother have any problems, you can come and ask me. Hearing Su Rui's words, Ling Li suddenly raised his head and looked at Su Rui, his eyes very sharp. I can solve our matters by myself. Thank you for your concern. Oh, is that so? Su Rui smiled faintly and looked at Ling Li with a deep gaze. If that person was your father, would you also deal with him? Su Rui knew that Ling Li also had a group of foreign mercenaries, but would he use those people to deal with Du Chen? This was obviously unrealistic. In the original plot world, all of Ling Li's trump cards were used to help Du Chen and Ling Qiue. Every time Du Chen was in trouble, he would secretly find someone to help him. A father and son duel could only happen in this world. Father. Ling Li froze for a moment. He knew that his mother had been busy with the lawsuit recently. She had been a lot quieter recently and her whole person was haggard. Ling Li had a clever and exquisite heart. He understood that his mother was working so hard and everything was because of him. He also wanted to try his best to make his father give up the idea of fighting for custody, but in the past few days, every time he talked about this topic with Du Chen, the two people would part on bad terms. Du Chen always treated him as a 5-year-old child. Well, although he was really only 5 years old, he already knew a lot, okay? If things really reached the point of a lawsuit in court, Ling Li would naturally stand on his mother's side without hesitation. He believed that even if Du Chen was strong, he would never be able to forcibly tie him back to the Du family, right? It had to be said that although Ling Li's thoughts were already very mature at this time, he didn't have much real social experience after all. At this moment, he didn't understand at all that the most unpredictable thing in this world was the human heart. Qiue, I want to see you. When Ling Qiue received a call from her biological mother again after many years, she was in a trance. Although her family had brought her so much pain and hurt, in her past life, the Ling family had left her with more beautiful and warm memories. When she was a child, her mother was gentle, her father was loving and her brother was very close to her. When she grew up, the family business grew bigger and bigger and her parents became busier and busier, but even at that time, their family was still harmonious and very happy. Ling Qiue put down the phone and hesitated for a long time before deciding to meet her mother. The place where the mother and daughter met was a coffee shop. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Ling Qiue wouldn't have believed that the old woman with a weathered face in front of her would be the well-maintained and elegant mother in her memory. "Mom, why are you?" Sigh. Ling Qiue's mother sat in front of Ling Qiue and sighed deeply. "Qiue, how are you doing now?" "I am fine, Mom, you are?" "It's good that you are doing well." Ling Qiue's mother smiled and interrupted Ling Qiue's question. "I also recently read the reports in the newspaper to know that you are back. Your son is very cute, he is really beautiful. Ian, his name is Ling Li, his nickname is Tian Tian." When mentioning her son, Ling Qiue's eyes immediately softened. She didn't know the kindness of her parents if she didn't raise her son. At this time, she was also a mother. Seeing Ling Qiue's happy smile, Ling Qiue's mother's expression flashed with a complicated struggle. "Qiue, I am actually." "Mom, do you have something to say to me?" "Say it." Before going to the appointment, Ling Qiue had actually thought about many possibilities and even prepared for the worst. At this time, her face was very calm, but in fact, her hands under the table couldn't help trembling slightly. "No, nothing." Ling Qiue's mother finally just smiled at her. "Mom just wants to see you. That's it." For a moment, Ling Qiue also looked at her mother with some suspicion. "Mom, you look a lot older. Have you lived a bad life these past few years? Where are Dad and Big Brother?" Although she still resented them so much in her heart, Ling Qiue couldn't help but ask. When she left, the Ling family's business had gradually recovered because of Du Chen's help. Could it be that after she left, Du Chen vented his anger on the Ling family, causing the Ling family to fall into this state? Chapter 201. Grand Hyatt Hotel, the most luxurious five-star hotel in Yangjing City. In the hotel's presidential suite, on the messy and soft big bed, Su Jianjun was hugging the beauty in his arms and puffing out smoke. Brother June, the enchanting woman on the side, wrapped her hands around Su Jianjun's neck. "You promised me that you would arrange for me to work in the Du clan. You can't pull up your pants and go back on your word. Am I that kind of person?" Su Jianjun took another puff of smoke and looked a little proud. "Don't you know who I, your brother Jun, am? My daughter is the eldest young lady of the Du family. She has the final say in the Du family. Now even second young Master Du has to curry favor with me. Let alone arranging a job for you, it's absolutely not a problem for you to be a senior staff member of the Du clan." "Really?" As soon as the woman on the side heard Su Jianjun's words, her eyes shone. "A senior staff member of the Du clan? They are all super white-collar workers who have a car to pick them up and can live in high-end apartments in the city center. How much money is a month's income?" Thinking of this, the woman's eyes were full of tenderness. "Brother Jun, Brother Jianjun, you must help me. I'm already your person. Be good, my little baby." The thing that Su Jianjun couldn't resist the most was beautiful women acting coquettishly towards him. He puffed out a smoke ring and was about to give the little beauty next to him a hot kiss. At this time, the door of the suite was suddenly opened from the outside and Li Maihuan, dressed in jewels, rushed in with a group of noble wives. "Su Jianjun, are you tired of living? And you little slut, you even dare to seduce this old lady's man? Sisters, beat this vixen to death for me." For a moment, the room was in a mess. At night, Du house. Su Jianjun, whose face was scratched with red marks, was kneeling by the sofa with a resentful look on his face. Li Maihuan still had a cold expression, grabbing Su Wan's hand and constantly scolding Su Jianjun. "It's right to say that men become bad when they have money. Your father is such a coward and he still plays with women. He doesn't even look in the mirror to see his own virtue." There was no end to Li Maihuan scolding Su Jianjun. Su Wan was already drowsy on the side. Seeing that Li Maihuan was getting angrier and angrier, Su Wan finally couldn't help but raise her hand to stop her from speaking. "Mom, since you two don't have feelings for each other anymore, why don't you divorce and live your own lives?" Looking at them, Su Wan felt vexed. Just what kind of feelings did these two harbor all these years? Divorce. Hearing Su Wan's words, Su Jianjun's eyes lit up while Li Maijuan's face sank on the sofa. "I won't divorce." Su Wan looked at Li Maihuan in surprise. She was the one who scolded Su Jianjun the most just now. Why did she refuse when it came to divorce? Does Li Maihuan really love Su Jianjun? Now, he's relying on the fact that his daughter has married well and is rich and powerful. He wants to dump me and find a new lover. Dream on. Li Maihuan had long noticed the joy in Su Jianjun's heart. If this was 8 or 10 years earlier, when she was still young, Li Maihuan wouldn't hesitate for a second if he wanted to divorce her, but now? She had accompanied him until she became a yellow-faced old cabbage, and now he wants to spend money to find a little tender grass? A fool's dream. Hearing Li Maihuan's words, Su Wan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This Li Maihuan is really a person who can't be provoked. She wants to waste Su Jianjun's life. However, Su Wan didn't intend to care about these trivial matters between the two of them. Since you don't want to divorce, then continue to make do. I'm tired, I'll go upstairs first. Wait, Xiao Wan. Li Maihuan saw that Su Wan was going back to her room and immediately stood up and grabbed Su Wan's arm. I'll accompany you upstairs. Mom has some intimate words to say to you. Hey, what about me? Su Jianjun, who was still kneeling on the carpet, couldn't help but raise his head and look at Li Maihuan pitifully. Why is he pretending to be pitiful? You continue to kneel. Housekeeper robot, record the whole process for me. If you dare to be lazy for even a second, I'll make you kneel all night. Li Maihuan glared at Su Jianjun fiercely, and then pulled Su Wan upstairs. As soon as they entered Du Han's room, Li Maihuan first looked around. There are no cameras in this room, right? No, Du Han is not an exhibitionist. Why would he install a camera in his bedroom? Su Wan was a little speechless, but looking at Li Maihuan's nervous appearance, she also guessed that Li Maihuan might want to talk to her about some more secretive topics. Mom, what the hell is the matter with you, making it so mysterious? Su Wan pulled Li Maihuan's hand and asked anxiously. Daughter, tell Mom the truth. Do you like Du Han or Du Chen? Since being promoted to CEO, Li Maihuan felt that her horizons had broadened and her connections had also broadened. Among the noble ladies she came into contact with, which one of them didn't know the situation of the Du family? Although the two young masters of the Du family were both local tycoons, there was always a difference in status. It was obvious that Du Chen, who was in charge of the Du family's economy, was the head of the Du family. And Li Maihuan's work this time was also personally arranged by Du Chen. In the recent days of contact, although Du Chen did not say it clearly, Li Maihuan had already cleverly understood Du Chen's thoughts. It turned out that he had always been thinking about his daughter. This made Li Maihuan's thoughts uncontrollably move again. Although a woman does not serve two husbands, if her daughter really likes Du Chen, then she might as well persuade her to leave Du Han and return to Du Chen's embrace. If she likes Du Han, then she would have to take her time to think about it. Hearing Li Maihuan's question at this time, Su Wan's eyes turned and she also thought of the most fundamental reason. It's Du Chen. He must have released a signal to Li Maihuan that he still had feelings for her, which made Li Maihuan so tempted. Greedy people really never know how to be satisfied. Before Su Rui appeared, when they were driven out by Du Chen, this couple only wanted to get some benefits to pay off the debt. Later, Su Rui gave them money that they couldn't spend and Li Maihuan wanted the Du family's business. Now that Du Chen has given her this opportunity, she will only become more and more greedy and want more and more. Mom, why are you asking this? I'm already Du Han's wife. What's the point of saying this now? Since Li Maihuan was so greedy, Su Wan simply gave her a chance. She wanted to see to what extent this woman could go for her greed. Daughter. Hearing Su Wan's ambiguous answer, Li Maihuan felt that she had an idea. If Du Chen can change his mind and is willing to marry you, will you divorce Du Han? Divorce? Su Wan sneered in her heart, but her face still showed a conflicted expression. Mom, don't talk about this. I'm already Du Han's woman. It's impossible for me to be with Du Chen. Hearing Su Wan's words, Li Maihuan also hesitated for a moment. Although Du Chen has this intention now, second young master Du has a lot of previous convictions. He hasn't even settled Ling Qiue yet. If Su Wan and Du Han really fell out and Du Chen changed his mind, wouldn't she be left empty-handed? Moreover, the most important thing is that Du Chen now has a son, who is the rightful first heir. Thinking of this, Li Meijuan's eyes turned and she immediately had a plan in her heart. Daughter, think about it yourself first. Mom will help you. En. Hearing Li Meijuan's words, Su Wan just nodded and then sent her out of her bedroom. Chapter 202. When Su Rui returned from the company at night, it was already very late. When he returned to the bedroom, Su Wan had already taken a shower and fallen asleep. He couldn't help but bend down and kiss her forehead. Su Wan, who was sleeping soundly, felt his breath and slowly opened her eyes. You're back. It's so late again. Yeah, I've been busy lately because I have to develop a new product. Oh. Su Wan sat up from the bed, her hair scattered over her shoulders. She was sleepy and looked particularly lazy. Hubby, what's Du Chen doing recently? Why do you suddenly care about him? During this period of time, Su Wan only cared about eating, drinking and accompanying Su Xiaosu. In this world, he planned on letting Su Wan relax and have a good rest. The air was clean, the technology was high, and the Du family had everything they wanted. Most importantly, they had Su Xiaosu. So when he heard Su Wan suddenly ask about Du Chen, Su Rui was indeed a bit surprised. It's nothing. Today, Li Meijuan came to test me. I think Du Chen must have promised her some benefits. You also know that Li Meijuan is much greedier than Su Jianjun, and in her eyes, you, the eldest young master, is definitely not as valuable as Du Chen, the second young master. Li Meijuan? Su Rui sneered. What new tricks can a jumping clown come up with? If she really dares to do anything unfavorable to you, I'll make her disappear immediately. General Su would never be polite to someone who wasn't the main character of the world. She doesn't care about me, I just feel that she might do something to Ling Qiyu and Ling Li. According to Li Meijuan's personality, if she wants her daughter to be second young master Du's wife, Ling Qiyu and Ling Li are definitely the biggest stumbling blocks. Then she must be tired of living. Su Rui really wanted to light a row of candles for Li Meijuan, daring to scheme against the female lead and the genius baby. Just wait for your group to be annihilated, Tilda wife, don't bother about them. One dead is one less. Su Rui suddenly pressed down on Su Wan. I'm so tired. I've been working all day. Wife, hurry and comfort my exhausted heart. Go take a shower. Su Wan disdainfully pushed Su Rui off the bed. In the end, General Su was too strong and directly dragged Su Wan onto the carpet. The two of them looked at each other and finally couldn't help but laugh. Mom. Suddenly, the door was pushed open. Su Xiaosu walked in quickly in her pajamas. Su Rui. He'd forgotten that Xiaosu had a master key in her program that could unlock many electronic lock. What a blunder. They're showing off their love again. Su Xiaosu looked at the two people on the ground with messy clothes. She opened her mouth wide and said with a cute face, do you want me to restart the system and do it again? Stupid girl. Su Rui cursed in a low voice and then pulled Su Wan up from the ground. What do you want to do so late? Don't tell me that you can't sleep and are afraid of the dark. Robots don't have that many functions. Su Xiaosu looked at Su Wan with a wronged expression. Mom, look at Dad. He's so fierce. Didn't I disturb him showing off his love? How can he be so heartless, shameless, and unreasonable? Su Rui. Su Wan shrugged her shoulders and quickly walked to Su Xiaosu. Su, what's wrong? Mom, I heard Aunt Qiyu crying in Ling Li's room. She was crying so miserably. Is she dying from some terminal illness? It's all like this in TV dramas. Su Wan. Is the love of watching melodramatic TV dramas contagious? However, Ling Qiyu crying in Ling Li's room, could it be? Su Wan and Su Rui looked at each other. Su Rui shook his head. Don't worry about her for now. It should be Du Chen who did something. Ling Li will deal with it. He should learn to be a man and protect the women in his family. Su Wan was also convinced by General Su's logic, but when she thought of Ling Li's halo, Su Wan also nodded. Well, they just need to destroy Du Chen and Ling Qiue. A broken mirror reuniting and whatnot. Scumbags don't deserve it. Su Xiaosu. She suddenly felt that Ling Li was so pitiful. Okay, this lady will be magnanimous and try not to bite him when fighting in the future. It's decided happily. Leaving Su Rui's room, Su Xiaosu gently walked to her room. Her room and Ling Li's room were next to each other. As a result, Su Xiaosu had just walked to the door when she saw Ling Li's door open. Su Xiaosu thought it was Ling Qiue and was about to say hello, but she saw Ling Li wearing a set of bear pajamas and walking out with red eyes. It turned out that he hadn't slept all this time. The two people looked at each other again. Su Xiaosu felt a little guilty. Her eyes flashed and she rushed to say, I stole something to eat. I didn't do anything bad. Do you want to fight? Ling Li just looked at Su Xiaosu and suddenly asked without any rhyme or reason. Su Xiaosu was stunned. Are you sick? Are you the legendary masochist? Do you want to fight? Ling Li still repeated it coldly. He had been pretending to be asleep and he heard Ling Qiue's words and crying. Mom didn't want him anymore. She didn't want him for the sake of her family. Isn't he the person closest to her? At this moment, Ling Li didn't understand why his mother would treat him like this. He suddenly felt very envious and jealous of Su Xiaosu. A robot can get so much love from Su Wan and Du Han, but what about him? What can he get? What's the use of being smart? What's the use of being powerful? What's the use of winning the world? He's going to lose even his own parents. At this moment, Ling Li wanted to cry, but he couldn't. Su Xiaosu was speechless when she saw Ling Li repeatedly asking her to beat him up. Subconsciously, Su Xiaosu activated the emotion scanner. She found that Ling Li's emotions were very chaotic at this moment. Such chaotic emotions made Su Xiaosu feel like she was going to crash. While Su Xiaosu was in a daze, Ling Li had already pounced over. Caught off guard, Su Xiaosu was pounced on by Ling Li and her whole body fell on the carpet in the corridor. Dude, this is a sneak attack, you're breaking the rules. In a fit of anger, Su Xiaosu subconsciously raised her head and opened her mouth to bite Ling Li. As a result, when she was about to bite, Su Xiaosu suddenly remembered that she seemed to have promised in her heart that she wouldn't bite him in the future. So conflicted, but robots also have to be honest. So Su Xiaosu immediately closed her mouth. As a result, she kissed Ling Li with a smack. Although it was only a face, Ling Li was dumbfounded. Ah! Su Xiaosu was also stunned for a moment and said somewhat guiltily, I didn't want to bite you, you're not allowed to cry. So, Su Xiaosu's first kiss doesn't seem to have that item in her settings? Ling Li. What if he was kissed? Should he kiss her back or slap her and call her a hooligan? Both of them were silent for a long time, and finally, Su Xiaosu took the lead to speak. Hey, do you still want to fight? It's time for him to turn off his phone and sleep. Forget it, forget it. Ling Li quickly stood up and forgot about being abandoned for a moment. Really? Su Xiaosu couldn't help but look at Ling Li in confusion. Human children are really troublesome. Chapter 203. It was still the same coffee shop. Ling Qiue came to the agreed seat early in the morning. She was absent-minded and her mind was constantly interlaced with Ling Li's cute little face and her mother's tear-stained face. Qiue, help your big brother. You save him. He actually. That day, Ling Qiue asked about her father and brother's recent situation. Ling's mother finally couldn't hold back and told her what had happened to the Ling family over the years. At that moment, Ling Qiue suddenly realized that the truth she had always known was just a lie carefully fabricated by her brother. It turned out that the person who schemed against Ling Qiue back then was not Ling Yinju, but someone else. When Ling Yinju arrived that day, Ling Qiue had already been drugged and sent away. Because that person had booked the best private room in the beginning, but that private room was forcibly occupied by the drunk Du Chen, so Ling Qiue and Du Chen were indeed a misunderstanding due to a combination of factors. Later, The two of them were blocked by the media. Du Chen's voluntary admission immediately confirmed the matter. At that time, the Ling family actually breathed a sigh of relief. At least Du Chen looked young and handsome. He was indeed a good match. Later, Du Chen also helped the Ling family through a crisis, but at that time, he also said that he would never help the Ling family a second time. In fact, although the Ling family had survived the crisis at that time, they were still on the verge of collapse. Fortunately, Ling Qiue married well and they were all relieved. Not long after, the person who had taken a fancy to Ling Qiue got wind of the rift between Du Chen and the Ling family from somewhere and immediately attacked the Ling enterprise frantically again. Ling Qiue never knew about all this. At that time, Du Chen took out the check in front of Ling Qiue because he knew about the Ling family's predicament. In Du Chen's view, wasn't Ling Qiue's repeated fawning for money? He, second young master Du, had nothing but money. Ling Qiue didn't accept the money and she returned to the Ling family and said that she wanted a divorce. Ling Yinju knew that Ling Qiue was not doing well, but he couldn't let Ling Qiue and Du Chen divorce. Once they divorced, she would lose the protection of the Du family. So that day, he didn't hesitate to speak coldly again and again, just because he didn't want Ling Qiue to stay in her maternal home and find out that something was wrong with the Ling family. At that time, none of them thought that Ling Qiue would disappear. After Ling Qiue left, Du Chen didn't care about the life and death of the Ling family. The mastermind behind the scenes didn't find Ling Qiue for a long time, so he naturally began to force Ling Yinju. He felt that once the Ling family reached the juncture of destruction, Ling Qiue would definitely appear. But he didn't know that Ling Yinju had already said it in order to make Ling Qiue sever her relationship with them. Big brother, Ling Qiue remembered that a long, long time ago, her brother liked to look at the stars at night and the sunset on the horizon behind her back. Why did her brother, who loved her so much and had been obedient to her ever since she was young, suddenly become so cruel? Why didn't she notice that something was wrong with her brother? The past few years, the warmth and love, how could it all be a lie? Ling Qiue raised her hands to cover her face, tears slipping through her fingers. "Don't cry." A slightly hoarse voice suddenly sounded in front of Ling Qiue. She suddenly put down her hands and saw Ling Yinju sitting in a wheelchair. He was also a lot more haggard, but his gaze was still as gentle as before. "Brother, brother." Ling Qiue couldn't help but stand up and throw herself into Ling Yinju's arms, crying in pain. "Silly girl, don't cry, this is a coffee shop." Ling Yinju gently stroked Ling Qiue's hair, his tone full of sighs. "I know that mother told you and I know what you want to do. Silly girl, don't do stupid things anymore. Do you know why mother has your phone number? It was Du Chen. He deliberately found someone to leak it. Mother missed you so much that even though I repeatedly advised her not to see you, she still couldn't help it." Ling Yinju knew what Du Chen wanted. Although he was disabled, he still maintained the habit of reading the news and newspapers every day. In the past few days, the news that Du Chen and Ling Qiue were going to have a court battle had already spread. "Although the Ling family is gone, father is also. But you still have me, mother and Ling Li." Ling Yinju gently stroked Ling Qiue's long hair, his tone as gentle as ever. After the Ling family went bankrupt, Ling Yinju's father secretly invited the mastermind behind the scenes and shot him dead on the spot. Madam Ling was another child of Ling Yinju's father. He couldn't bear his child being ruined by a madman. Madam Ling was gone and he didn't want to live anymore. Ling Yinju didn't know about Ling Yinju's father's suicide until the next day. After that, Ling Yinju's mother collapsed. In order to take care of his mother, Ling Yinju had to pull himself together. He once again used his connections to start over, but everyone pushed him when he was down. On the way to start a business again, Ling Yinju was plotted against again and his leg was deliberately hit by a car. Because he had no money to treat it, it had been delayed until now. In fact, it was easy to make him stand up again with the current technology, but Ling Yinju no longer wanted to join the business of deception. He now did public welfare, occasionally managed his own finances and speculated in stocks. The money he earned was enough for him and Ling Yinju's mother's living expenses. It was just that Ling Yinju's mother had always felt sorry for him. She had been thinking about how to get a sum of money to cure his legs. Ling Qiyu listened to Ling Yinzhou's mother that day and her heart was in a mess for a long time. When she came out of the coffee shop, she saw Du Chen's car. In fact, after your father died, the Ling clan owed a lot of money. The debts were all pressed on Ling Yinzhou alone. He didn't tell your mother. Du Chen handed a stack of information to Ling Qiyu. Ling Yinzhou has a chance to make a comeback. He is even very talented, but he doesn't want your family to be involved in the disputes in the business world again, so he chose to live in seclusion and slowly bear the huge debt by himself. That money is enough to pressure him for a lifetime. A lifetime, using a lifetime of burden in exchange for a peaceful life for his family. Ling Yinzhou, how can you be so stupid? Leave Tian to me. Ling Qiyu, you should be able to see that without strong protection, life is so fragile. Du Chen's eyes stared at Ling Qiyu's eyes. I will help Ling Yinzhou pay off all his debts. I can let you come and visit Tian at any time. I promise that those people will not come to trouble you again. Ling Qiyu, you should know what kind of choice is the best for you, your family and Tian. At that moment, Ling Qiyu wavered. Yes, what can she give Tian? What did she bring to her family? If Tian continued to follow her and encountered the same thing, what should she do? Brother, I have decided. Ling Qiyu raised her head and looked at Ling Yinzhou seriously. Tian is so smart, he should have a better life. I will stay here and accompany you and mother. Du Chen promised me that he will let me visit Tian often. Qiyu, Ling Yinzhou wanted to say something, but when he saw Ling Qiyu's serious and stubborn eyes, he could only swallow the words in his heart. It was because he understood Ling Qiyu's stubbornness too well that he acted so ruthlessly back then. That after Ling Qiyu left the coffee shop, Ling Yinzhou was still sitting in his original position. Not long after, a tall and slender figure arrived. Mr. Du. When Ling Yinzhou saw the person opposite him, the look in his eyes became a little sharp. Have you considered the matter I told you? The person who came was straightforward and his tone was certain. He already knew Ling Yinzhou's choice. I promise you. Chapter 204. The weather in August was unbearably hot. Su Wan took a cold shower and changed into a cool set of clothes. When she came downstairs, she saw Ling Li sitting alone on the sofa playing on the computer. Yes, now Su Xiaosu comes to Su Rui's company every day to eat and drink. Who knows what Ling Qiyu is busy with? Most of the time, only Su Wan and Ling Li are at home. Taking 2 cans of soda from the fridge, Su Wan opened one and placed the other directly in front of Ling Li. Do you want to drink? Ling Li seemed to be stunned when he heard Su Wan's voice. He raised his head and glanced at Su Wan. His black and dense eyebrows wrinkled and then he looked at his computer screen with a troubled expression. Su Wan. What kind of reaction is this? Do I make you dislike me that much? Forget it if you don't want to drink. Su Wan curled her lips. She wasn't stingy enough to keep arguing with a child, even if this child was more mature than the average adult. Aunt Su. At this time, Ling Li suddenly raised his eyes again and looked at Su Wan with a pair of big eyes. Can you do me a favor? What? Su Wan looked at Ling Li curiously. This little guy rarely took the initiative to talk to her. Here. Ling Li raised his hand and the image on his computer immediately appeared in midair. It was a 3D image and the effect was very high definition. This is. Su Wan was a little confused because the image that appeared in front of her was of 3D beautiful girls, and each of them more or less resembled the appearance of her current body. What are you going to do? Su Wan put away the surprise in her eyes and looked at Ling Li with interest. You can guess it, Aunt Su, you're so smart. Ling Li suddenly began to play Tai Chi with Su Wan. Su Wan curled her lips. Aren't you just going to find a little lover for Du Chen? You're not really going to find yourself a stepmother, are you? Stepmother. Ling Li narrowed his eyes. I don't want to be separated from mother. If father has a new lover and child, he won't want to separate me and mother anymore. Su Wan. This logic seems to make some sense. What the hell? Little friend Ling Li, what you're doing is wrong. Su Wan couldn't help but sigh. The world of adults is not as simple as you think. Even if your father gets married and has children in the future, you are his blood. According to his scum character, he will not give up on you. Then what should I do? At this time, Ling Li's mind was blank. He subconsciously asked Su Wan, but after asking, he regretted it a little. He was such a genius and yet he couldn't think of a solution. How could she, who was so stupid, think of it? Who was the one who said Auntie Su was smart? Su Wan naturally didn't know what Ling Li was thinking. When she heard Ling Li's question, she casually took a sip of soda and then said in a low voice, "You should let nature take its course now. If you want to change everything, you can only make yourself stronger. When you are stronger than Du Chen, then you can control everything. Those who are not strong enough would never have the right to speak. This world is dominated by powerful people. Whether you admit it or not, this is a fact." It was an undeniable reality. Powerful? Stronger than Daddy? Ling Li's eyes lit up. Why didn't he think of it earlier? "Auntie Su, thank you." Ling Li looked at Su Wan's eyes and thanked her seriously. "Although I have always felt that you are not worthy of Uncle, but I think you are a good person now. Actually, I'm still not worthy of Uncle. In order not to discourage you, I won't repeat it. Su Wan. Why am I not worthy of my man? Who was the one who chased her back and forth in a frenzy all those years ago?" Su Wan raised her brows when she heard Ling Li's words. When Ling Li thought that Su Wan was going to get angry at him, she suddenly laughed out loud. "Yes, you're so smart. You even saw through this. I'm just not worthy of him. What should I do? Who told him to like me?" In fact, Su Wan had been really lazy recently. She didn't do anything and didn't even have the passion to do tasks. This was all because she was spoiled by General Su. There's nothing wrong with having such a domineering husband. It's so willful. Su Wan, are you showing off? You're definitely showing off. It can't be helped. With such an outstanding husband, Su Wan can't keep a low profile even if she wanted to tilde little Ling Li. When you grow up and meet a woman who you can't wait to love to the bone, you'll know. Pampering her, spoiling her, letting her do nothing and only rely on you, that's also a very happy thing. Su Wan liked the current feeling, not doing anything, not thinking about anything, not having to worry about betrayal and loss. They will always be together, they will always be together. She firmly believed in this. Love her, spoil her to the point of lawlessness. Little friend Ling Li felt as if he had suddenly gotten some amazing skills. "So, Su Wan, you really taught young people wrong. You've forcefully educated a great youth who was born as a winner to become a henpecked slave. Sigh, for the sake of your own safety and family status, please cherish your life and stay away from Su Wan." When Du Chen returned home, he saw the scene of Su Wan and Ling Li getting along warmly. He involuntarily stopped at the door. That's right, this is the right way to go home. Du Chen felt warm in his heart. Xiao Wan really likes Tian. Now that Tian has begun to accept her, then he has to hurry up on his side. In the future, their family of 3 will live very happily. Male lead, do you know that you've gone crazy? What are you talking about? Why are you so happy? Du Chen slowly walked to the sofa and hesitated before sitting next to Ling Li. Little Ling Li's eyes flashed and he smiled at Du Chen. "Dad, Aunt Su is telling me a story again. It's very nice. Su Wan. Your level of storytelling is really high. Is that so? Tian seems to like Aunt Su a lot recently." Du Chen patted his son's head excitedly. He liked Ling Li calling Su Wan Aunt Su instead of Aunt Su. This was how his son should be. Hearing Du Chen's words, Ling Li blinked his seemingly innocent eyes and replied crisply, "Tian likes Aunt Su very much, but Aunt Su said she only likes Uncle." Du Chen. What happened to the father-son relationship, huh? Su Wan couldn't help but laugh. Tian, you're naughty." Ling Li turned his head and looked at Su Wan again. "Aunt, don't you like Uncle anymore?" "How could that be? I like him very, very much," Su Wan said with a happy face. That happy smile stung Du Chen's eyes. He couldn't help but stand up and raise his hand to grab Su Wan's arm, but Su Wan easily dodged it. Second brother, what are you doing? Xiao Wan, I have something to say to you. Du Chen suppressed the irritation in his heart and fixed his gaze on Su Wan. He felt that he couldn't bear it anymore. Then say it, I'm all ears. Su Wan changed her posture on the sofa, but she was still secretly on guard against Du Chen's movements. Let's go outside and talk. Du Chen felt Su Wan's vigilance and he couldn't help but take a step back. I'll wait for you in the garden. Saying that, Du Chen turned and walked out. Watching him open the door and leave, Ling Li's eyes flashed and he looked at Su Wan with a complicated expression. My dad seems to still have feelings for you. You're not really going to be my stepmother, are you? What does a brat know? Chapter 205. The flowers in the garden had been replaced. At this time, the afternoon sun was scorching and many flowers drooped their heads, looking weak. Du Chen stood in the sun, squinting his eyes and looking at the sun above his head. Going against the light was always asking for trouble. However, sometimes many people like to do this, not because they are stubborn, not because they are stupid, but because they have an obsession in their hearts. That obsession can't be let go, can't be broken. Say what you have to say. Su Wan's voice sounded behind Du Chen. Du Chen suddenly turned around and stretched out his arms to hug Su Wan, but Su Wan, who was already prepared, quickly retreated and dodged. Xiao Wan? Du Chen raised his eyes and looked at Su Wan with a hurt face. I know you still love me. You love me, right? I know I was wrong now, I regret it now. I'm sorry. I should have gone to find you back then. I shouldn't have been so selfish. Now I really know I was wrong. Give me a chance to make it up to you. Leave Big Brother and be with me. I will give you happiness, I will. These words had been suppressed in Du Chen's heart for a long time and now he finally said them all in one breath. Not everyone will always stand in the same place waiting for you. Du Chen, you are actually very lucky. The original owner loved you all her life and finally died for you. Even if Ling Qiue was hurt by you, she still chose to reconcile with you for the sake of her son. Tell me how happy you are. However, how can a scumbag deserve happiness? You don't deserve. What about the solemn pledge of eternal love? Why did you give up so easily? Why should a girl's heart be so ruthlessly trampled on by you? Not all love can be reunited after a broken mirror. What has been broken should be completely crushed and shouldn't exist. Su Wan smiled at Du Chen and her smile was a bit strange. Du Chen, do you know? I don't love you, I have never loved you. I love Du Han, it has always been him. Xiao Wan? The Su Wan in front of him suddenly made Du Chen feel very unfamiliar. This was like a docile pet you had been raising suddenly showing you its sharp claws and teeth, wanting to kill you. This feeling made Du Chen's heart tremble fiercely. Are you surprised? A cold light flashed in Su Wan's eyes. You are always so conceited. I met Du Han first and fell in love with him. Is it so surprising? Back then, Du Han suddenly disappeared, and I kept looking for him. Later, I met you. I agreed to be with you because I wanted to see Du Han. You're lying, Xiao Wan, you're lying. If you don't love me, why would you commit suicide for me? Why did you suddenly come back to find me after a few years? Du Chen was a little emotional when he heard Su Wan's words, but at this time, he told himself that he must calm down because Su Wan's words were full of loopholes. She must be lying. Yeah, I'm lying. You can even tell. Su Wan smiled mockingly. Du Chen, do you know, the thing I regret the most now is that I fell in love with you. When I thought you would give me everything, what did you give me? When I came back to spend the rest of my life with you, what did you give me? Du Chen, touch your heart. Are you really sincere to me? If your sincerity is so fragile, then you don't need it. Xiao Wan, I already know my mistake now. Give me a chance, believe me again. It's too late. Su Wan looked at Du Chen indifferently, as if she was looking at a stranger who had nothing to do with her. Du Chen, unless you can turn back time and let the dead heart of the past Su Wan come back to life, everything is already irreparable. Spilled water cannot be retrieved, unless time is turned back. The cruelest rejection in the world is not loving, but having loved. How much pain did you make others suffer in the past? Now, you should personally experience that feeling. Su Wan turned around indifferently and looked at her departing figure. Du Chen couldn't help but shout, "If there was no Du Han, would you forgive me?" Su Wan shook her head. She had seen this kind of question many times. If there was no him, her, would you love me? The person who asked this question was actually very stupid. Because if there was no him, there would still be another him. Those who don't love you will never be able to love you. Seeing Su Wan's determination to leave, Du Chen clenched his hands tightly. I, Du Chen, will definitely get what I want. Xiao Wan, without Du Han, you will love me, you will definitely love me. Warning. Warning. The protagonist of this world may be corrupted. Ah. Su Wan walked halfway and almost fell down in fright from the sudden alarm that popped up in her mind. Oh, she almost forgot that Du Chen, this scumbag, was the type of overbearing CEO who forced love. At that time, Ling Qiuer loved him and he didn't love her. Later, when Ling Qiuer didn't love him anymore, he became all kinds of overbearing and wanted to force himself on her. Aya, it's scary to think about it. Of course, Su Wan was also intoxicated by this kind of deep sadomasochistic love, and even he in the end. Not long after Su Wan returned to her room, Su Rui drove back home. As soon as he entered the door, he rushed into the bedroom anxiously. Xiao Wan, are you okay? I'm fine. Su Wan immediately smiled at Su Rui reassuringly. Seeing that Su Wan was fine, Su Rui breathed a sigh of relief. Du Chen, he didn't do anything to you, right? No, but he looks quite dangerous now. Do you think this world will be ruined by us? Points will be deducted. Su Wan felt very wronged. She didn't do anything. The male lead was a lunatic. What should she do? He was supposed to be a domineering male lead, but now he's been blackened by my words. How could this be endured? What if we make a move now? Su Rui rubbed his fingers. He had wanted to get rid of that guy long ago. He stared at his wife behind his back all day and even called her Xiao Wan. Your mother, we agreed that only this general can call her that. Dear, calm down. Su Wan raised her hand and pressed down Su Rui's restless hand. Right now, he only has this tendency. We can't make a move. If you're worried about me, I'll go to work with you in the future. It's also quite boring at home. Isn't your plan to encroach on the Du clan going very smoothly? And once he breaks the rules, he's dead. Yes, when someone in a world is completely blackened and touches the operating rules of a world, he will be sanctioned by the mission enforcers. In the beginning, Su Wan was sanctioned Ari, saying too much is just tears. In short, Su Wan expressed that she was the most experienced in this. Okay. After listening to Su Wan's words, Su Rui also breathed a sigh of relief. From that day onwards, Su Wan really followed Su Rui every day, and Du Chen gradually began to take action. First, Su Jianjun was caught in a series of scandals, and finally, he was locked up because of a crime of passion case. Immediately afterward, the beauty chain run by Li Maihuan also had a major medical accident, and as the CEO, she was immediately exposed by the media for repeatedly defrauding public funds. Du Chen always thought that Su Jianjun and his wife were Su Wan's Achilles heel, and everyone in the world knew Du Han's Achilles heel. Chapter 206. Xiao Wan, save mom, save me. In the middle of the night, Li Maihuan rushed into the Du house with disheveled hair and frantically slapped on Su Wan and Su Rui's door. So noisy. Su Wan impatiently turned over on the bed and leaned into Su Rui's arms again. Do you want me to tell her to shut up? Su Rui asked in a low voice. Su Wan shook her head. Don't touch her, she is doomed to not have a good end. Su Wan didn't want to dirty Su Rui's hands. A person like Li Maihuan was not worthy of him taking action. Xiao Wan. Li Maijuan's throat was hoarse from shouting outside the door, but the door was still tightly closed. Li Meijuan's heart was a little desperate. She had now become a street rat. It was fine if Du Chen didn't help her. Why did even her daughter and son-in-law stand by and watch? Now she was being chased everywhere by the husband of the lady who had a medical accident at the beauty salon. Li Meijuan also managed to sneak back to the Du house without anyone noticing. In fact, Li Meijuan also knew at this time that it was Du Chen. Du Chen set a trap for her. He couldn't protect her now, so those people would be so arrogant. At this time, Li Meijuan was a little regretful, but these regrets were useless. So noisy. At this moment, a door not far away was suddenly opened. Ling Li was still wearing cartoon pajamas, rubbing his eyes and looking at Li Meijuan, who looked like a female ghost. "What are you making so much noise for? If you make any more noise, I'll get someone to kick you out." It wasn't easy for Ling Qiue to have time to accompany Ling Li these past few days. Originally, Ling Li was very happy and slept better than usual, but who knew that a crazy woman would suddenly run out in the middle of the night? Well, that seemed to be Aunt Sue's mother, but Ling Li still hated this person as always. "It's Du Chen's son." Seeing Ling Li's figure, Li Meijuan's eyes flashed. In fact, she had planned to spend money to find someone to get rid of Du Chen's son, but every time she just started probing, the other party shook his head and refused. Not many people were willing to go against the Du family. "Du Chen, since you're doing this, then I, Li Meijuan, will do it 15 times. Let's see if my life is more valuable or your son's life is more valuable." Li Meijuan slowly stood up and looked at Ling Li with a fierce gaze. "What are you doing?" Ling Li blinked his big eyes and looked at Li Meijuan, who was getting closer and closer. "What do you think I should do?" Li Meijuan grinned and pounced on Ling Li, but in the next second, she felt her back go numb and her whole body fell down powerlessly. "Too weak." Su Xiaosu blew the electric current on her hand and muttered to herself indifferently. During this time, Su Rui had been protecting Su Wan while also strengthening Su Xiaosu's martial strength. Tempage, that's right. General Su took care of everything. She's too stupid. She actually wanted to attack the Du family's young master in the Du family's villa. Did this woman really not have a brain? Ling Li looked at the unconscious Li Meijuan with a look of disgust. "Hey!" At this time, Su Xiaosu raised her hand and waved it in front of Ling Li's eyes. "I just saved you. According to you humans, it's called a hero saving a beauty. How are you going to thank me?" Su Xiaosu's voice was filled with pride. She thought to herself, "This time Ling Li owes me a favor. If there's delicious food at home in the future, he won't be too embarrassed to fight with me, right? Then all the delicious food will be mine, ha ha ha." Hero saving a beauty? When Ling Li heard Su Xiaosu's words and saw her big eyes that were still shining in the dark, his face suddenly turned red for some reason. Don't tell me you want me to repay you with my body. What the hell is repay you with my body? In order to prevent his daughter from falling in love at an early age, General Su did not set the love line in Su Xiaosu's database. So, General Su, you really put in a lot of effort, hard work. Su Xiaosu only had a very clear understanding of the feelings between humans. As for friendship, love, and what not, it was too complicated and too far away for her. She didn't understand. "Repay me with my body?" Su Xiaosu muttered to herself again. These 4 words were a bit familiar. How did it play in the TV series? Oh no, Mom didn't let her watch it recently and she almost forgot about it. However, it sounded like a good thing. "Okay, then repay me with your body." In the end, Su Xiaosu simply patted Ling Li on the shoulder and exhorted him with a serious face. "You must remember, always remember, don't forget. This little brat, he likes to turn his back on people the most tilde, so Su Xiaosu felt it was necessary to remind him. As a result, Ling Li remembered it and never forgot it for the rest of his life. However, Su Xiaosu turned around and forgot. The unconscious Li Meijuan was finally thrown out of the Du family's villa. Su Wan did not deliberately inquire about her fate, but Su Jianjun was acquitted after squatting in prison for a while. Perhaps it was because Du Chen saw that Su Wan really had no reaction to the safety of her biological parents that he let Su Jianjun go in the end. At this time, the battle for power in the Du family had also entered the most tense moment. The launch of Su Rui's new product had received a great response. The shareholders of the Du family had always been mercenary. At this time, many people supported the change of CEO and Du Chen's position began to be in jeopardy. At this time, a foreign company that Du Chen had been working with suddenly closed down. This was his very important partner and Du Chen had to immediately fly abroad to deal with this matter. When he saw the person behind the scenes who completely closed down his partner, he was stunned for a long time. It was Ling Yinju. Ling Yinju was indeed a business genius and the foreign environment was more suitable for his development. After he decided to cooperate with Su Rui immediately arranged for him to go abroad, give him treatment, and then paved the way for him, in order to catch Du Chen off guard today. During this period, Ling Yinju kept in touch with Ling Qiue. The current Ling Qiue was no longer the original naive little girl. Knowing her brother and Du Han's plan, she had been trying her best to cooperate and did not reveal the slightest flaw in front of Du Chen. Du Chen, who felt that he had been deceived by everyone, immediately returned to the country overnight. He wanted to settle the score with Du Han. Since Du Han dared to scheme against him, then why would he still care about brotherly affection with him? Late at night, the Du family's villa was silent. The people in the villa did not know about Du Chen's sudden return. Looking at the dark hall, Du Chen sneered and slowly took out a small silencer pistol from his arms. As long as Du Han died, everything would be over. The Du family belonged to the Du family. Without Du Han, the shareholders had no choice. Xiao Wan was his. Without Du Han, Xiao Wan would definitely return to his arms. Even if she didn't love him anymore, he would imprison her by his side for the rest of her life. Du Chen chuckled and slowly walked up the stairs step by step. In the dark night, murderous intent filled the air. Du Chen. Suddenly, a clear female voice cut through the silence of the night. Why are you back? Chapter 207. In the dark corridor, there was no moonlight. In her blurry vision, Ling Qiue could only see Du Chen's slightly red eyes. He looked particularly frightening now. Du Chen, you. Ling Qiue's gaze fell on Du Chen's hand. She saw the gun in Du Chen's hand. Heh. Du Chen sneered at Ling Qiue not far away, without a trace of emotion in his eyes. Mom! At this moment, Ling Li, who vaguely heard Ling Qiue's voice, suddenly came out of the room in a daze. Congratulations, the protagonist's family has been assembled. Tian, go back, Du Chen, don't mess around. The panicked Ling Qiue saw Ling Li's figure and pounced over. Shut up. Afraid that Ling Qiue's voice would wake Du Han up, Du Chen's face immediately turned grim. Ling Qiue, I told you to shut up, otherwise, don't blame me for being rude to you. At this time, Du Chen's expression was particularly ferocious. It was the first time Ling Li saw the other side of Du Chen. In the heart of every child, their parents are always the best people in the world. Even though he knew that Du Chen was an irresponsible scumbag, Ling Li had never hated him because of this. But now, he actually pointed the gun at his mother. Dad, what are you doing? That's Mom. Ling Li's voice was sobbing. He was so scared, he didn't want to lose any of his relatives. Heh, she is your mother, what does it have to do with me? At this time, Du Chen had long lost his mind. All these years, he had always been a proud son of heaven. He had trampled all living beings under his feet. He was used to the clouds and he did not allow himself to fall from a high place. When a person covered with the protagonist's halo fell from the clouds into the mud overnight, do you expect him to have an ordinary heart? No, he won't. No one can remain calm when they encounter great changes. Dad, don't you love Mom at all? Even if you don't love her, at least you should think about me. I don't want to lose you. Ling Li's voice sounded particularly sad and desperate in the dark night. I never loved her. If I had known that she had a child back then, I would never have let her give birth to the child. Du Chen narrowed his eyes at Ling Li. Tian, come over here now. You will still be my son in the future, otherwise what? Ling Li looked at Du Chen's face and his eyes changed little by little. Sure enough, Big Uncle was right. Dad didn't love them. He only loved himself. He loved his life of luxury. If one day, father and son had a showdown, Ling Li remembered what his uncle had asked him again. He could not help but close his eyes. Since her father had never looked forward to her birth, should she still have any expectations for him? This person did not love his mother, nor did he love himself. Uncle. Ling Li called out softly, return my favor, I'll leave him to you. At this moment, Ling Li felt that he had suddenly grown up. Although, the price of growth was always so expensive. A breeze blew past, and Du Chen only felt that his hand was light. The pistol had strangely disappeared, and the next moment, his temple was pressed by the cold muzzle. Second brother, this is how you use a gun. Su Rui's figure had appeared beside Du Chen at some point. After saying this, he turned to look at Ling Qiue and Ling Li. Ling Li, help your mother back to the room. Next is a bloody scene that is not suitable for children. You won't want to see it. At this time, Ling Qiue's face was still pale. Hearing Su Rui's words, she bit her lip hard and took a deep look at Du Chen. This man had affected her all her life. Is it finally over now? Mom, let's go in. Compared to Ling Qiue's complicated thoughts, Ling Li appeared very calm. Once he made a decision, he would not regret it or hesitate. This was a man who really did great things. Seeing that the two people had returned to the bedroom and closed the door, Su Rui turned to look at Du Chen. Today is the 15th. The moon is full and it's suitable to go to the underworld to reunite with your parents. Oh, Du Han, I have always underestimated you. At the juncture of life and death, Du Chen was surprisingly calm. At this time, he did not regret his irrationality. People will always do some irreversible things because of impulsiveness in this life. The winner is king and the loser is in the wrong. Where's Xiao Wan? I want to see her. At this time, perhaps his wish was to see Su Wan for the last time? My wife doesn't want to see you. Su Rui replied with a cold face. Love rivals and what not were the most annoying. Du Han, are you a man or not? Are you not even willing to fulfill the dying wish of a dying person? Du Chen looked at his big brother and suddenly felt that he was so unfamiliar. He really didn't seem to understand him at all. Whether I am a man or not, my wife knows. If you want to die, I will immediately fulfill your wish. Saying that, Su Rui pulled the trigger without hesitation. Thank you to the headquarters for the sanction reminder half an hour ago. General Su expressed that it felt great to be able to justifiably kill his love rival with his own hands. When Du Chen's body slowly fell to the ground, Su Rui indifferently dismantled the silencer pistol into parts and scattered them around Du Chen's body piece by piece. Tomorrow, the news of Du Chen's misfortune abroad will appear in the major newspapers of Beijing. That's right, the world of the rich is so capricious. Su Rui was directing the robots at home to dispose of Du Chen's body when Ling Li suddenly came out of his room. Uncle, let me do it. After being father and son for a lifetime, he will send him off and let him rest in peace. Looking at Ling Li's increasingly cold eyebrows and emotionless face, Su Rui narrowed his eyes. At this moment, he suddenly realized that the most powerful person in this world was not Du Chen, but Ling Li. Compared with Ling Li, Du Chen and Ling Qiue's protagonist Halo was really weak. In the end, Du Chen's body was taken away by Ling Li. As for where he was taken, Su Rui didn't ask. Ever since Du Chen's accident, Su Rui became the only head of the Du clan. At this time, he returned to Xinghong Electronics and devoted himself to researching robots that were the same as humans. He wanted robots to get along with humans in the future and everyone was equal. This was the only thing he could do for Su Xiaosu before he left this world. The entire Du clan was handed over to Ling Li. A child less than 6 years old had to manage a huge money empire. Amidst the doubts of the outside world, this child surprised everyone. Your mother, are you sure this is really a child? Eldest young Master Du, are you playing with us with a high IQ robot? 5.5 years later, Ling Li's 11th birthday. Happy birthday! Su Xiaosu looked at Ling Li, who was already much taller than her, and could only raise the gift to his chest. Thank you, Su. Ling Li habitually raised his hand and rubbed Su Xiaosu's hair. Hey, call me Sister Su. Su Xiaosu was unhappy. What happened to calling her sister? You bully me because I'm not tall, right? Looking at Su Xiaosu, who was still the same, Ling Li just smiled gently. Sister Su, is that okay? That's more like it. Su Xiaosu immediately became happy. Let me tell you, if a girl gives you food, you must not eat it. Why? Ling Li's eyes flashed and he looked at Su Xiaosu seriously. Because it's for me. Didn't Kong Rong Rang Li learn? It's terrible to be uneducated. Ling Li, who was the one who didn't go to school and who was uneducated. A few years later, Ling Li's 15th birthday, well, happy birthday. Now Su Xiaosu didn't like to celebrate Ling Li's birthday at all, because many girls used to like him and even gave him chocolate. Su Xiaosu liked eating chocolate the most. But now there were no girls giving him things. Look at him, he has a cold face all day long, just like an iceberg. No wonder no girls like him, so pitiful. Forget it, I'll let him be happy. Ling Li, look at what I gave you. Su Xiaosu saw that Ling Li was about to put away the gift and immediately reminded him nervously. In fact, the gifts that Su Xiaosu gave him on every birthday were the same. Although they were very ordinary, Ling Li would keep them very solemnly. Today, seeing Su Xiaosu blinking her shining eyes at him, Ling Li had to open the gift directly. It's heart-shaped chocolate. At that moment, Ling Li felt that his heartbeat suddenly became very fast. Although Su Xiaosu had never grown up in these years, but Ling Li found that he liked her more and more. Would he be regarded as a pervert? This made Ling Li feel very vexed. There were too few people and things in this world that could make him feel vexed, but Su Xiaosu made him vexed all the time. Do you like it? Do you like it? Su Xiaosu leaned forward and blinked her eyes at Ling Li with a fawning expression. I like it very much. Ling Li couldn't help but raise the corners of his lips. In fact, he looked very good when he smiled, but Su Xiaosu didn't have time to appreciate it. She snatched the chocolate into her arms. Okay, you've seen it, you like it, now it's mine. Ling Li. Seeing Ling Li's blank look, Su Xiaosu couldn't help but explain seriously. Did you forget? Didn't you promise me that any gift given to you by a girl will belong to me? Am I not a girl? Do you discriminate against robots? Ling Li. Not far away, Su Wan, who rarely saw Ling Li being deflated, couldn't help but smile and lay on Su Rui's shoulder. Husband, what do you think Ling Li is feeling now? Probably, he wants to die first. Su Rui looked at Ling Li's gaze at Su Xiaosu. He was very familiar with that gaze because he always looked at Su Wan with that kind of gaze. Wife, little Su will be 18 next year. Let's leave after her birthday. 10 years was just a blink of an eye. Robots are now very common in this world, and some people have even advocated the promulgation of laws and regulations for robots and humans to marry. Of course, this is still rejected by the public at present, but Su Rui believes that as long as Ling Li has the heart, he can change a world. Only by handing his daughter over to this young man can Su Rui truly feel at ease. They have been in this world for a long time and it's time to leave. Some love and some ties are destined not to accompany them for a lifetime. We should leave, but... Su Wan turned to look at Su Rui. We'll come back, right? When everything settles, when she and Su Rui leave the mission, they can freely choose the time and space they want to live in for the rest of their lives. This place might be a very good choice. Chapter 208. Because he had stayed in the previous world for too long, when Su Rui woke up in the execution cabin number 11, his mind was blank for a while. Father, mother, I will wait for you. What flashed in his mind was Su Xiaosu's face when she grew up. Su Rui's eyes flashed, and in the end, he returned to silence. Points. He looked down and checked his points. 67,300 points. These points should be much less than Su Wan's. If he continued to follow Su Wen and couldn't complete the mission, his points would never increase, unless Su Rui's gaze fell on the table at the entrance of the execution room. On it were the materials that Yun Sheng brought last time. Cross-departmental trial. First place reward, 200,000 points. Su Rui's gaze stayed on the trial materials for a long time. At this time, the locator on his wrist rang again. Seeing that Su Wen had entered the mission again, Su Rui smiled from the bottom of his heart. Now, their hearts had been far away from the lost time and space because they could only see each other in the mission world. Su Rui returned to the execution cabin without hesitation, but at the moment when the mission was connected, the warning light in his execution cabin suddenly flashed red. Warning! Warning! An unknown bug has appeared in this mission world. If you force your way in, you may encounter unknown dangers. Do you choose to withdraw? Do you choose to withdraw? No. Su Rui chose no without hesitation. Su Wen had already entered. How could he withdraw at this time? No matter what the unknown bug was, Su Rui would not be afraid at all. Xiao Wen, wait for me. Plane Repairer Headquarters, Office Number 1. Xu Ce had just returned from a mission world. He originally planned to deal with the recent failures in the department, but as soon as he returned to the office, he received a communication from the logistics department. An unknown bug had appeared in a mission world. Because the laws of that world were special, the bug could not be removed for the time being. As a result, the entire mission world was in a state of temporary closure. The mission enforcers who entered it could not leave in a short time. And there were currently 2 mission enforcers in this mission world. Plane Destroyer, Su Wen. Plane Repairer, Su Rui. It turned out to be Su Wen and Su Rui. Xu Ce's eyes flashed. At this time, he was browsing Su Rui's mission failure report in this mission world. This guy was getting more and more willful. But unknown danger. Xu Ce furrowed his brows, and a rare trace of anxiety flashed across his usually gentle face. He gently closed the documents on his desk, closed his eyes, and leaned back in his chair. After a while, he opened his eyes again, and there was a glimmer in his eyes. Inside line 001-inch Xu Ce turned on the communicator and dialed the internal line of the headquarters of the lost space. Xu Ce. Not long after, an old voice came from the other end of the line. It was dignified and solemn. I want to check the information of the mission space where the bug just appeared. Xu Ce's voice was very cold, without the slightest bit of warmth. This was completely different from his usual gentle and elegant image. You should know that you have no right to access it. The voice hesitated for a moment and seemed to be in a difficult position. Then activate your privilege. Xu Ce did not hesitate and coldly said again. Hearing his words, the voice on the other end of the communication device was silent for a while before slowly saying, "Okay." At this time, in the mission world, there was a sharp pain in her mind. Su Wen sat up abruptly. This is. She felt that something was wrong. Something was wrong all over her body. This feeling of something was even stronger when Su Wen saw the unconscious woman on her bed. This is. On the soft bed, there was a young woman wearing silk pajamas. She was sleeping. Her face was pale, but her face was exquisite. Even if her eyes were closed, one could see that she was a rare beauty. Who is she? Shouldn't I? Su Wen rubbed her forehead and gently walked down from the bed. There was a tall dressing mirror on the other side of the bedroom. When Su Wan's gaze fell on the mirror, her eyes suddenly widened. The mirror was white and only a vague outline was reflected. This is. What's going on? At this moment, the young woman on the bed suddenly groaned and slowly opened her eyes. Her pair of eyes turned from confusion to clarity. The woman looked at the unfamiliar and luxurious room in a daze. Then, she sat up abruptly. Why am I here? Didn't I die? As she spoke, she nervously and excitedly pinched her own face. Then, she suddenly threw off the blanket on her body and ran out of bed barefooted to stand in front of the full-length mirror. The mirror clearly reflected her youthful and beautiful face and her exquisite figure. This is me. Did I transmigrate? Am I reborn? The woman pinched her arm again. It was very painful. This is not a dream. Did I really transmigrate? Su Wan was speechless. Well, at this moment, Su Wan, who was also standing in front of the dressing mirror but was completely ignored by a certain woman, indicated that she probably, perhaps, seemed to know what happened. At this moment, the bedroom door was suddenly pushed open. A middle-aged woman in gorgeous clothes walked in with a gentle face. When she saw the young woman on the ground, she could not help but frown. Xiao Wan, why aren't you wearing shoes? You've just recovered. Quickly go back to bed. Xiao Wan, her name? The woman on the ground was stunned, but she still obediently turned around and returned to the comfortable bed. She opened her mouth. At this time, a certain transmigrated woman really did not dare to say anything rashly. Could it be that she had to pretend to have amnesia? What's wrong? The middle-aged woman saw her daughter's uncomfortable expression and could not help but walk forward and touch her forehead with concern. Are you still uncomfortable? Do you want mother to bring you a bowl of bird's nest? Mother. The woman grabbed her mother's hand. My mind is blank. I seem to. Can't remember anything. Su Wan. Well, this was the first move of a transmigrated woman, pretending to have amnesia. Can't remember anything. At this moment, the middle-aged woman was extremely anxious. Xiao Wan, what's wrong with you? Do you still remember me? I'm your mother. The transmigrated woman blinked her eyes. Mother, is Xiao Wan my name? Yes. Your name is Su Wan. You're my daughter. Su Wan? The person on the bed suddenly opened her eyes wide. Nancheng's Su Wan? Yes. Madame Su, who was beside the bed, nodded. Xiao Wan, do you remember? Remember my ass tilde. I'd rather she didn't know anything, okay? Mother, I want to be alone. The transmigrated woman lay back on the bed and pulled the thin quilt to bury herself under it. Madame Su looked at her daughter's abnormal behavior and finally shook her head. She slowly turned around and left. Hearing the sound of the door closing, the transmigrated woman on the bed suddenly sat up. Without saying a word, she raised her middle finger to the top of her head. I, Su Zhen, am really unlucky. Not only did I fall into the river and die while saving someone, but I even transmigrated into the novel I just finished reading. I even transmigrated into a short-lived vicious female supporting character. Su Zhen really felt that the heavens must be playing with her. Transmigrating into anyone else, why did it have to be Nancheng's Su Wan? You're asking who Su Wan is. Have you seen The Strongest Warlock? There's a male lead called Zun Randu. He's crazy and domineering, killing people like flies. As for him, he has an unpopular ex-girlfriend called Su Wan. Su Wan, the daughter of the richest man in Nancheng, has a pure yin constitution since she was a child. When she was young, it was very easy for her to provoke evil spirits. Later, with the help of Zun Randu's master, Hermit Zhong, she was finally invulnerable to ghosts. In order to thank Hermit Zhong, Su Wan's father, Su Lin, set up a marriage contract for his daughter and his disciple. At that time, the two children were still young. The two people were ignorant, but they had a good impression of each other. 6 years later, Hermit Zhong disappeared. In order to find his master, Zun Randu came to Nancheng again and stayed in the Su family. The Su couple naturally warmly entertained him, but at this time, Su Wan, who had grown up, already had a Prince Charming in her heart. When she saw Zun Randu dressed as a country boy, she was naturally unhappy. She even warned Zun Randu behind her parents' back not to have any improper thoughts about her just because they were engaged. Zun Randu was a person with backbone. Although he still liked the beautiful Su Wan in his heart, after being warned by her, he left a letter of annulment the next day without saying goodbye. Chapter 209. This mission world was a world of warlocks. Warlocks, also known as necromancers, were people of the Shenmen sect. They could divine good or bad luck for people, know geomancy, and could also determine life and death with one divination. In short, physiognomy, 5 elements, geomancy, and exorcism, which were called feudal superstitions by people, really existed in this world. Zun Randu was an orphan. He grew up with Old Man Zhong on the mountain. Others called Old Man Zhong Hermit Zhong, but Zun Randu called him Master. Zun Randu didn't know how many years his master had lived, but as long as he could remember, his master had always been like that. When he traveled with his master, he met Su Wan. At that time, she was still a 9-year-old girl. Master said that she had an extreme yin body and must be suppressed with pure yang blood, and Zun Randu had a pure yang body. Yin and yang should have attracted each other, and Zun Randu also liked Su Wan very much. That year, Su Lin made a marriage contract for them, and Zun Randu was very happy. But a few years later, his master suddenly disappeared. When Zun Randu came to the Su family again, he found that Su Wan had changed. She was no longer the innocent and weak little sister in his mind. She became cold and mean. She despised his old-fashioned and despised his poverty. Yes, Zun Randu knew that he was old-fashioned, but he never felt that he was poor. His master had told him before that marriage was destined and nothing could be forced, so Zun Randu broke off the engagement with the Su family. He left Nancheng and went to Mount Maro, the birthplace of the Shongqing sect, because after his master disappeared, an elder token belonging to the Shongqing sect was left in his room. In the Shongqing sect, Zun Randu met the daughter of the sect leader, Yi Yuqi. Although Yi Yuqi was born in the Shongqing sect, she was born with broken meridians and was unable to cultivate Taoist techniques, so she could never become a warlock in her life. Even so, she kept working hard, practicing the simplest telekinesis every day. Her tenacity moved Zun Randu, and Zun Randu decided to use the special method given to him by his master to teach Yi Yuqi to cultivate. Yi Yuqi's father, Yi Guangmao, told Zun Randu that if he wanted to find his master, he had to go to Beihai. Zun Randu set off alone, but Yi Yuqi secretly followed behind him. The two of them killed demons and devils along the way. Not only did Zun Randu's cultivation soar, but he also found his long-lost relatives on the way. Just when they arrived at North Sea, the cities around North Sea were shrouded in a terrifying cloud. In this area, there were continuous occurrences of supernatural events, and a lot of warlocks had gathered here. In addition to Dragon Tiger Mountain, Formless Gate, 5 Elements Sect, and even Ma Yu, the descendant of the exorcist dragon clan's Ma family. Ma Yu was the genius of the Ma family. Before Zun Randu appeared, he was the leader of the younger generation, but since Zun Randu appeared, he suppressed Ma Yu in all aspects. Not only that, but emotionally, Ma Yu fell in love with Yi Yuqi, who loved to laugh and make trouble, while Yi Yuqi had long been in love with Zun Randu. Thus, the two peerless geniuses became enemies. The North Sea turned red, and the sea demons were born. When the whole world is dyed red, it is said that the strongest warlock will be born. This was a legend in the world of warlocks, but this year it became a reality. Zun Randu narrowly escaped death and killed the sea demons, becoming famous from then on. He became a peerless master sought after by everyone, and even Ma Yu had to surrender and retreat. At this time, Su Wan was in danger because the yin qi in her body had gathered again. At this moment, she thought of Zun Randu again. She begged Zun Randu, and Zun Randu saved her life again for the sake of their past relationship. But at this time, Su Wan thought that Zun Randu still had feelings for her. She wanted to be with this powerful man again, but Yi Yuqi was her biggest stumbling block. Inadvertently knowing the secret that Yi Yuqi actually didn't have spiritual power, Su Wan spent money to find someone to set up a 9 ghost-seeking life to kill Yi Yuqi. Unfortunately, in the end, Yi Yuqi still used talismans and magic tools to successfully escape. Zun Randu finally found out about this matter. He hated Su Wan's ingratitude and vowed to make her pay the price. 3 days later, the Su family in Nancheng was exterminated overnight. From then on, the once glorious Su residence became a famous local haunted house. Killing people without a trace, harming people without a trace, vicious and merciless, daring to fight against the heavens. This was a warlock. This was the original mission plot in this world. The original. At this time, Su Wn was floating in her bedroom, looking at the heartlessly sleeping transmigrator girl Su Junjun on the bed. She was also speechless. How could it be so coincidental? She had just accepted the mission, but the moment she entered the body of the original owner, she was snatched away by a transmigrator girl. And because this transmigrator girl didn't do any evil things before, and when she died, she still died saving people. Her soul had the power of virtue. Even if her spiritual power was 100 times stronger than hers, she still couldn't take back the body that originally belonged to her. Sigh. Am I going to be a ghost in this world? Su Wan was completely depressed this time. Now she couldn't even contact the headquarters, and she couldn't even give up this mission and leave. At midnight, dark clouds covered the moon. The room suddenly became gloomy and cold. So cold. Su Junjun, who was sleeping, couldn't help but shiver. She really wanted to go to the toilet. She opened her eyes in a daze, and as a result, Tilda the woman's scream echoed in the room. Xiao Wan, what's wrong? Mrs. Su immediately rushed in and turned on the chandelier in the bedroom. Su Junjun clenched her mouth tightly and looked at Su Wan floating by the bed. This is Xiao Wan, what's wrong with you? Did you have a nightmare again? Mrs. Su ran to the bed nervously and gently held Su Junjun's body. At this time, Su Junjun was shocked, speechless. She saw the real Su Wan, a soul body that was exactly the same as her current body. Isn't that the original owner of this body? I'm fine. Su Junjun composed herself. She was sure that Mrs. Su couldn't see Su Wan at all. Could it be that she was the only one who could see her? Fortunately, Su Wan was still wearing pajamas at this time and looked very normal, completely unlike the image of a female ghost that Su Junjun had seen in the movies before. Maybe she wasn't so scary. Su Junjun carefully looked at Su Wan, who was floating around the bed in boredom, and Su Wan even winked at her. Okay. After asking Mrs. Su to leave, Su Junjun gathered her courage and stared at Su Wan. Su Wan, are you Su Wan? Su Wan nodded. Could it be that Su Junjun could see her because of the heavy yin qi at night? However, Mrs. Su couldn't see her, which meant that only people with special abilities or who had a special relationship with her could see her. I didn't mean to harm you, and I didn't want to. Don't come looking for me, okay? Hearing Su Wan admit her identity, Su Junjun immediately had a bitter face. I really didn't mean to. Transmigration is random and I didn't want to. How about I return your body to you? If I could get my body back, you would have gotten out of my body long ago. Su Wan floated around Su Junjun with a helpless expression. Su Junjun felt dizzy. You didn't come to get your body back? Then why are you pestering me? I'm a good person. I've never done anything bad in my life. I don't want to pester you either. Speaking of this, Su Wan was even more speechless. After she realized that she couldn't go back to the headquarters, the first thing she thought of was to find Su Wan. Su Wan's identity in this world must be the male antagonist, Ma Yu. The Exorcist Dragon Clan, Maro from the south and Ma from the north. Ma Yu's family was near Beihai. As long as she went all the way north, she would see him. But after Su Wan left the Su family's villa, she would become very weak and her soul would have no strength at all. I can't leave the Su family unless you take me away. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.